Good evening, everybody. I was not quite expecting to be arriving to you this way. So, first of all, I owe you all an explanation in terms of where the stream was on Monday. So basically, things have gotten probably busier at work than they have ever been before. And I put in a lot of time the uh, the night before. I didn't get even remotely close to enough sleep. So that time I sort of said, okay, well, let's, get, we'll get whatever sleep I need and sort of carry on from there. And I rather specifically didn't set a timer just to make sure that I got enough sleep. Because normally when that happens, I will actually be up in time for stream. But in this case here, I did sort of put out a tweet just saying that it was possible I may not make it because I wasn't feeling 100%. But I more or less sort of slept through the stream time. And it didn't really feel right to try, how do I put it? Like something like tonight where I'm starting quite late. This one has a little more variation with it, but sometimes I'll try and run to the end of the the stream, but uh, I don't know, especially given the number of times that I'm this week in particular, the number of times that I'm going to have late nights. I wanted to try and recover whatever sleep I could, and I honestly haven't really gotten a proper night's sleep since that. So it's a rambling way of saying I'm sorry that I wasn't broadcasting at the time I said I would. I definitely had planned to broadcast, but I was 100% not feeling well enough to broadcast. And the other challenge that I have is that I have not had an opportunity to record the rest of the episodes for this week for the YouTube channel. So I'm a little conscious of the time that I'm going to be finishing tonight and the time that I'm going to have to record those. I think I'll probably just try and record one and then hope that I can get lucky with the time tomorrow. But I will do my best to do a full stream tonight. But if I'm feeling like I was when you when I didn't stream on Monday, I may do a slightly shorter episode. But I am conscious of the fact that I've kind of been screwing up as far as getting the streams in. The good news, though, is that I think we are getting near the end of the kind of the demands on my time. I mean, work will always demand my time, but I think the really tough stuff that's been keeping me from streaming has a few definite deadlines that'll be. I think those are going to be coming up reasonably soon. And I'm sure there's going to be more stuff that sort of replaces it, but I can, I'll manage with what I've got is probably the best way to look at it. Now we have a new patch, so welcome to Hush House Tips. These are in the loading screen, but from the FAQ department. If you are new to Book of Hours, you may not realize how far you can zoom in. Playing on a Steam Deck, we're not verified yet, but switching from window to full screen will help. Read everything. Patch 2024 10J14 Janus. The Wonderful Shape is now done. Now some of these we've read before, but let me just see what we can find in here. So The Wonderful Shape is now a Dawn book. Rest of the Sweet Bones. Winter Message now only displays in winter. Tooltip of the First Aid Ticker no longer flickers. Tuned some of the sounds in the Wisdom Tree. If you completed a standard ending more than once, it will no longer display in the ending screen. If you created a complex lighthouse ending with different values more than once, it will still display multiple times. Chinese and Russian versions of the closed village buildings now display collect highlight images. Added some guard logging code that might help with that bloody high contrast setting crash. Fixed an issue with the unfettered eye where Hokobald would sometimes be inspired under the wrong circumstances. Bug fix a nasty one where double-clicking on a book would occasionally dispatch it to Oriflammes. That's interesting. House of Light simplified Chinese localization for House of Light is now out of beta. House of Light Olympi's heist option is available even without a fiddly memory trick. House of Light, the Beehive won't offer upgraded Beehive recipes by default anymore. House of Light, St. Tentrento's altar is consistent about its requirements after a change. House of Light, Spencer no longer confuses down for out. House of Light, Mushroom Meringue now correctly causes regret. House of Light, Avenues of Inquiry have a less misleading no incident just now message, and in new games that message will occur only when there are no incidents at all. Hello, Zero Degree. Oh, new emotes, and hello, Sylphea. Endless struggle against typos remains endless but proceeds. A slight tweak to Arthur's request for one of the Deoris versions to make it clearer which version he wants. Rowena's burden will no longer cause the convene action to loop frighteningly. Some work to make founder names localizable in complex ending screens, which happily also put the correct hyphen in Aladim. Echidna now blocked from attending salons in both her modes. Added a note to make it clear that Yorkshire pudding does not qualify as a pudding. Welcome to Britain. Hope you enjoy the weather. It is no longer possible to use and destroy your writing case with a Numa petition. House of Light redacted, and redacted are no longer visible as spoilers in Lighthouse slots. If you've already seen the spoilers, they'll stay visible though. Oswin, lovely to see you. How you doing? Kokil and Arun do in fact have things to say to each other. No, I meant Zero Degree. Zero Degree always comes in hot with some fun animated emotes, and but I know they changed them up, but these are two that I don't think I've seen at all. All right. House of Light added a couple of clarifying book clues. Egg sandwiches are finally possible. Added advice about an unusual bit of emergent gameplay post-Salon. Fix for the missing lighthouse bug occurred in some imported pre-HOL saves. The fix will clean your autosave only in the background when you open the game. House of Light, Zachary follows through on his demand for a memory in further story for Oriflamme's heist. Agendas are properly inspired for the Invisible Opera further story. And Resurgences and Emergences manuscript image is definitely fixed now. You were stressed about work. I'm really sorry to hear that, Oswin. Is it just there's a lot to do, or do you have a specific deadline coming up? We don't need to talk about it too. I imagine probably me harassing you for more information when you when you just want to relax is maybe not the right way to go about it, but all right, let's think about what I want to do. Holy hell. All right, yes, we did a bunch of oh man, I feel like I actually worked out a whole plan for these. Okay, we are in exactly the same boat then. I don't know if you signed in to watch the stream on Monday, but I actually had to just get more sleep, and I feel bad about that, but I was not feeling well at all. So, and it was like I had definitely been up for much longer than 24 hours, so that I kind of count as needing being equivalent to sick, basically. Okay. Nick Dedromi. This is definitely not the list I was looking for. Oh, yeah, okay. So if I'd been thinking, I would have written down... Oh, no, here we go. So Edict's Liminal, 5 lessons, Coil and Chasm. Okay. So let me just take a minute to see what we've got here. So with Edict's Liminal, I'm going to... Ah, dear. Where are you? Okay, that's going to 9, is it? That can't be right. We want it to 8. So that's going to get 4 lessons. So knock and moth in that case. Okay, so solutions and separations is definitely set up for that one. Coil and chasm. Now we just need 2 scale for that. Coil and chasm will take nectar and scale. Sky Stories is Rose and Sky. Hill and Hollow is Scale and Moon. Okay. So I think for a start... Actually, I think I'm going to prioritize Edict's Liminal. This darn tree. Is it because I haven't filled in enough, or because you don't know what you want to commit to it yet? I actually have a really definite plan for this right now, but because I'm catching up, I needed a minute to decide. Okay, so let's say that I want to try and level up Coil and Chasm. So this one's going to be a bit tricky because we need Heart and Nectar for that. Or Scale and Nectar for that. So essentially health is the only thing that I can apply. Now, let's take a moment and figure out what memories I can use, because I kind of need the whole thing. Oh, good. I think tonight you'll get to see a few extras. So, Stolen Secrets doesn't help. Beguiling Melodies is Grail and Sky. Impulses definitely has Nectar, so we can start with that. So I'm going to need 7 and then 8 eventually. Fear also works because of its scale. Foresight, Storms, Stolen Secrets, Patterns, more Storms. Okay, Confounding Parable on the way. Ah, dear. This makes me think that I thought I could do something with Sky Stories, but very obviously I can't. Unless it's in one of these books that I can read. Probably is, to be honest. But let's still just focus on what we have in front of us here. All right, so I had Impulse, Fear, Storms doesn't have the Scale or Nectar, Intuitions, nope, Regrets, Forge, and Winter. Confounding Parable we have on the way. Contradiction is Moon and Edge. Foresight is Forge and Lantern. Gossip, Grail and Rose. Salt, Moon, Knock, and Winter. Bittersweet Certainty is Winter and Lantern. Patterns, Forge, and Knock. Savage Hymn helps. Earth Sign. Perugian Diaries doesn't help me. The Solace doesn't help me. Revelations doesn't help me. Satisfaction doesn't help me. And I think that is it for the different books I can generate memories from. So the next step would be Nectar. Oh, sorry, not nectar, scent. But that still leaves me quite short. Which makes me think I'm missing something really obvious here. So if I want to upgrade Coil and Chasm, I need 7 memories total. 8 eventually. So Impulse gives me the Nectar, Fear gives me a scale, Savage Hymn gives me a scale, Earth Sign gives me a scale, Nectar gives me a scale, but Hindsight I forgot, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one option I have would be to, one of the options could be to make a Hive's Lament. I'm just trying to think if there's any... I guess the Earthquake name would be a big scaly one that I can do, so let's try that. Hello, Tiberiosity. Thank you very much for the lurk. So the Earthquake name's a bit of a tall order, but let's get... I think we can work with this. So I don't think I have anything that I want to do with my talk verb right now. I think we're pretty much set for that. We'll bring in Mr. Kill because we can. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. We'll also earn some money at the Sweet Bones. And I can start by checking out the Savage Hymn. Yeah, so the Savage Hymn, the scent, and I suppose the question is whether or not I can pull off the Hive's Lament. I don't think my Drums and Dances is that strong. Oh, good lord, yeah, that's not gonna work. Well then, so it makes me think I can make an Earthquake name. I guess the first step would be to get an Old Moment. So I wonder if Disciplines of the Scar might be better suited for that. Not in that room. Actually, it's probably better here. Nope, nope. Yeah, so that one just needs a memory. Perhaps that's something we'll use with Mr. Kill. Yeah, you know what, let's just run... Oh yeah, sorry, the Old Moment itself will be one of the ingredients I can use, so... That gives me something to start with. And we've got a Gale, so... that doesn't directly help me with the current task. I should take a minute to see whether or not that gives me access to any rooms that I wouldn't normally have access to. With Mr. Kill, let's take me up to 4, 5, 8. I actually think we have a real shot. So maybe I won't be using him. Maybe I won't be using him to open or to generate memories quite at the start. I should, however, sniff the plant. Investigate this object. You won't use this up or consume it by doing this. And in fact, while I'm at it, this is a little late for me to be doing this, but let's go... Let's just add the remaining items. So we need an impulse. Actually, come to think of it, I think the snake may wind up giving me something. Let's see if I can get an impulse here. No. I don't even remember where I was starting. Let's go with... I think I'll just start with the Ceaseless Tantra and we'll go from the start again. Alright, the Fear. I've read the Leonine Tantra a couple of times, so I think I'll just save that for something else. We've got Black Nephrite. Again, I'm never really sure where to start, so let's just take Stolen Histories and move on. Savagehim we're already on our way to getting. We've already got an Earth Sign. We're getting the Scent, so Hindsight, and if I can, a Hive's Lament, but let's be realistic, that's not going to happen, so let's go for the Hindsight instead. I can also start putting some thoughts into what the next Salon might be. So again, lots of elements of the soul. This always makes me a bit uncomfortable, but I'm not 100% sure what to do with them right now. So we'll let the day go by. I suppose I could try and do something like, you know, read the Viennese Conundra. Like, we've got a bunch of different books now which I can work on, but I think I would prefer. I think I'd prefer to just focus on the immediate task in front of me. And Oriflammes, Sense Sign Sciences, dear librarian, we would like to offer you this opportunity to purchase the Book of the White Cat. That's a 5 tally price item, but I don't really think we have any more uses for Spintria other than to buy books. So let's get the Book of the White Cat. Alright, Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. So let's start with some basics. We'll give him the Faust. Together we'll be watchful. This is a pure just shot in the dark at this point, but I am reasonably satisfied that we might be able to make something out of this. Hello, Prosciutto Fist. How are you doing? I feel like I owe people some shout-outs. So we've got Osmond. Actually, there's more of you here than I thought there would be. So Osmond Meow came in. Osmond Meow is someone who, lately at least, has been streaming a lot of Book of Hours. Now, it sounds like she's about as busy as I am. But, oh, this is the one where you're doing the, like, mega feminist Jack the Ripper for... Actually, that's tonight, isn't it? Anyways, Osmond Meow is a real-life scientist. Procrastinator. Very nicely done. Okay, God, all the best people are in here now. So we've got Osmond Meow, who actually originally found me through my Cultist Simulator videos on YouTube. Definitely a broadcaster who has made me feel better in terms of the, you know, just the nice comments and all of that, but somebody who I've actually really enjoyed hanging out with. I think Osmond's got some really interesting insights, some really interesting perspectives on the world, and I think one of the things that is a little endearing, although it makes me feel a bit bad, is she will frequently comment on how she feels some of the stuff that she's doing in Book of Hours like doesn't stream well, but I've actually really enjoyed her process of going through the game. One thing I've actually really liked is that she's taking the time, like there was a stream where she just sat and read the books because she wanted to understand the setting a little bit better. And obviously I did way too much talking inside of that stream, but Osmond's a little bit more relaxed about backseating, but also I think we have a reasonably good understanding in terms of things that might be more fun to find out on your own, whereas other things are sort of clearly, okay, you know, maybe you want to know about, you know, ... or did you consider, you know, something along those lines. So if nothing else, she does a wonderful job of faking it. But I do sometimes get these messages wondering if I'm going to do lore-based streams, but I actually think that Oswin has got this covered a little bit better, and it's not necessarily because this is a streamer who knows the setting particularly well, but it's somebody who's taking the time to sort of meet the game on its own terms and work it out. And that is one of the things that to me is the most exciting and one of the things that I enjoy the most about this game. So I will tell you that Oswin's done a bunch of other games which I've really loved watching. So she did all of Disco Elysium, and then is, I believe, the only streamer I've watched play Helldivers 2. for any amount of time, but definitely someone who I really like, and I feel plays Book of Hours in a way that I feel quite engaged with. It's really enjoyable because it's a chance for me to sort of see the game almost like the first time again, which I like. Not to be outdone, we've got Prosciutto Fist, who's also doing interesting stuff. So Prosciutto Fist, I originally found through Book of Hours. I get the impression that she sometimes tolerates it because I'm around in the chat. That's unkind, though, because she has actually written a nice review for the game. But I did originally find Prosciutto Fist through Book of Hours, but is definitely a streamer who I've watched play a lot of other things, and I've had a lot of fun watching play. But tonight, which means I think some of you may actually be heading off to her place, which I highly recommend, she's been doing some history streams lately. I believe tonight it is Jack the Ripper. So the pros did some history in school, but I think probably is just doing this almost as an excuse to kind of scratch that history itch. But no, Pro's got a really interesting stream in her own right. Like I said, definitely does a lot more variety. Used to basically be a million episodes of Baldur's Gate 3, which is actually what Viridian's onto now. But definitely, she's got a really quick wit. It's very fun to watch. And in fact, she was doing another game that Oswin had done not too long ago, Pentiment, which I quite like as well. But I think, again, one of the real highlights has been that Prosciutto Fist has been sticking with these history streams every Wednesday, even when they haven't always been the most rewarding in terms of viewership numbers, because definitely Pro is somebody who is a little bit more geared towards making a living doing these broadcasts. So definitely someone I want to take the time to sort of talk up. I just saw my viewers numbers count the tank, so sorry if I lost all of you some viewers there, but I was hoping to at least drive some people towards your your streams. In any case, definitely a couple of people who I really like, and I feel like Viridian's going to get sort of short shrift on this, but one of Pro's mods is Viridian, also known as Hannah, and I've actually gotten to the point. I mean, it's always one of these things where you kind of treat you treat mods almost as like an extension of the streamer. So like Viridian is like of Pro, but no, Hannah is actually quite a fun broadcaster to watch in her own right. And actually, it's also fun because I tend to watch her with play games with friends. So like Lethal Company is a game that I'm really interested in, but I realize it's a game that's biased against the lonely. It's one that I'll never enjoy single player, so I sort of live vicariously through other people's enjoyment of that game. But again, whether it's hanging out with Pro or whether or not it's hanging out with some of the other people that she streams with, it's been a lot of fun. And she's actually been a wonderful delivery mechanism for my Doug Ford trolling of her Canadian friend as part of the team. So anyways, those are some wonderful broadcasters I highly recommend you follow and check out. And we will be back to some more Book of Hours gameplay. But I definitely feel like these are some people who I wanted to spend some time on, especially because at least some of them spent some time on me. All right, on to our quest for Nectar and Scale. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So this doesn't really help me today, but that's fine. We don't need everything to be immediately useful to us. What have I learnt? Watchful potted plant, not everything needs eyes. The sense of awareness persists, but the plant remains immobile, unsettling but harmless. It doesn't even have thorns. So we've got some time before we can have the next salon, although it would be nice to plan. I think I'm going to just toss the Gale in right away and see we'll see what we can do. So talk about the weather, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. Trees bend, walls creak, travelers bend low against the blast. Just before I started streaming, actually, there's a big gust of wind, which almost made it sound like it was raining, but I'm sure for all of you, the leaves are starting to turn, and we're getting just to that point where you're really starting to see them fall off the trees. But where I am in my workplace, I actually kind of get to look out the window, and I have a particularly good view. It's higher up, lots of trees around, and it just winds up. I have one of those angles where the light, when I'm going to be at my desk, like the light shines right on the leaves just so. I would never be able to like take a camera or anything like that, but it's just one of these ones where it's like, oh man, I really wish I had my camera because I know exactly how I would be setting everything up. But yeah, I respect my employer's wishes for me not to be running around and interrogating people. I'm sure they'll be convinced when I say no, it's for the trees. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else I can do with the day. Again, I'm sort of sitting on a bunch of elements of the soul, mostly because I want to see if I can try and level up Coil and Chasm a couple of times. Okay, the Ceaseless Tantra. The avant-garde choreographer Nicholas Kirley supposedly incorporated this tantra into his menacing ballets. The Ceaseless Tantra is devoted mostly to warnings about the lively creatures called percussigants, but concludes with a chant which can be used to summon them. It observes that percussigants can be taught any dance, but they prefer only one. That which does not cease is not ceased. Oh, and as pro got to find out, I did get to see, I've seen a few different animals at my work, which is kind of nice. This is the nice thing about being a Canadian working in an office. So I've seen foxes, I've seen groundhogs, I'm pretty sure I've seen a hawk. What else? I think there might have been a cat running around actually at some point. But today, as I was on my way out, I got to see a frog. And unfortunately, actually, I almost stepped on that frog and felt very bad about it. I was wondering why this leaf was moving very deliberately away from me. And I realized that that was no leaf, that was a frog. So. Stolen Histories. The agitator and pamphleteer Alexander Sparrow inveighs against the monstrous serpents, thieves of history. Sparrow acknowledges 5 histories, insists the 3rd history may be overrun by coils, warns the 5th history is already lost. Yeah, I do too. It's just one of these practical things, right? Like that was true for it's true for most places that I've worked since like becoming an economist, is that inevitably you wind up working with data, and so rather than like dealing with the practicalities of, you know, okay, are you taking the right kind of photo? Are you taking that private data that you work with and taking, you know, a shot of it? For the most part, they just do a pretty easy to enforce rule, and is like no cameras. And obviously that's kind of hard when there's a camera in every single phone. So usually it'll be like, don't have a cell phone at your desk or something like that. But it's a sensible one too, right? Because I get it. Like if you're working with something like the census, or if you're working with something, where, you know, people have a reasonable expectation that their stuff's not going to be put out in the world, you don't do it. And that was even true when I worked for a bank. Like they generally did not like you keeping any recording stuff around. I'm just that compelling, huh, bro? All right, here we go. Sparrow, with his usual paranoia, appears to be conflating the horror of the Worm Wars and the Great Writhing with the activities of the Great Hooded Princes. Still, he draws thought-provoking comparisons between the princes, normally conceived as exotic knocklong, and the widely feared worms. Now I'll ask you, Oswin, does the Great Hooded Princes mean anything to you? Can you recall any specifics about that group? An introduction to the histories, the 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hersault describes divergent incidents in 5 major histories. The prologue warns at length about the iniquities of one Julian Cosley, a former colleague who Hersault now describes darkly as a worm of worms. It seems Cosley advised Hersault early in the writing of the book, but Hersault later became suspicious. Hersault identifies blood, silver, design, and the worms as the central axes of each of the histories, and claims the so-called second history is the true one. You had a dream where you went to Canada in an effort to find all-dressed tips. Okay, so this is the thing that actually rather... this is something that rather surprises me, that all-dressed is not an American thing, because my association with the United States has largely been that there are a million flavors for everything. So I don't really drink pop that much, but you know, if I'm going to have a pop, it's probably going to be something like a Coke. And generally, if I get the option, a vanilla Coke or a cherry Coke is just very nice, right? And those are, if you get them in Canada, they're generally sort of seasonal or very special things. And like, what I did not realize is that that's just very ordinary in the States. Like, that's an expectation that you will have multiple flavors of Coke, and it's not a special thing. So, you know, my general assumption is that if there's going to be unique flavors, that's going to be in the States rather than in Canada. And yet everybody reacts with shock that there is such a thing as all-dressed chips. Because if anything, it would strike me, and I don't mean to fall into stereotypes about sort of the majority of my audience, but give me one with everything strikes me as a prototypically American, you know, flavor, right? It's one where it's like, yeah, we're gonna do the mega chip. It has all of the flavors on it. Listen, I was down in the States recently, and I actually really liked all the people that I met there. They're very friendly. I did like how some of them had a very overwrought reaction to the obvious Canadian accents. Like, there were 3 of us, and apparently I was the one with the least Canadian accent, which I did not believe in the least. But the other thing too, right, is I really do like it when you know, when you hear someone's like, yeah, I could tell from all y'all accent or something like that. And it's you know, it's just one of these things where you can't, like, there's no answer to it, right? Because, you know, it's like me saying that Heathrow is just a much fancier airport than anything in Canada. It's super posh because everybody there is speaking with a British accent. Well, no, of course not. Everybody speaks with an accent, and to me, it's very, you know, very unique and original. Obviously, North America absolutely loves British accents, but when you went to Canada, I wonder if people could tell. I've had definitely experiences where I know people are visiting from the States, but it generally is more a mannerism rather than an accent. I mean, it's a huge country, right? So it's, you know, there's just so many different accents that it's, you know, I'm going to assume that someone from the South, I'm probably going to be able to see, you know, to tell from the way that they talk. But you know, generally I've tended to find just certain behavior. And again, this is not going to fall into the stereotype of like brash, you know, clueless Americans. All of the people I met in the US were very smart. And actually very curious. Like, they were really interested in some of the stuff that I had to talk about, which is always nice. But yeah, it was definitely a neat experience. But I will definitely say, like, the all-dressed chips thing still kind of weirds me out, where it's like, we have one thing that the Americans don't have. And I'm actually pretty sure that most people who would try it the first time probably wouldn't like it. We've got Ellen Ripley in here. Ellen Ripley is definitely a name I like to see in chat. We've got, sorry, I'm going to jump back into the game, but I do need to catch up with chat too. My favorite part of visiting the US is the Diet Coke fountains with lots of different flavors. I was in Vegas and turning to my fellow patrons saying, you have no idea what you have. I know exactly what you're talking about, Ellen Ripley. Oh yeah, sorry, you went to Canada, Oswald. You were in Toronto. Well, there's different kinds of Canadian accents too. So like if you're in the Atlantic provinces, it basically sounds like they're making fun of Irish people. Whereas if you're, in the middle of the country, or if you're on the West Coast, there's definitely differences as well. Wait, you don't have ketchup as well? What is it with you people and not having, like, proper chips? Or crisps, for those of you who are from the origins of... sorry, in the same country that this game is born in. An introduction to the histories. The 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hersault describes divergent incidents in 5 major histories. The prologue warns at length about the iniquities of one Julian Cosley, a former colleague who Hersault now describes darkly as a worm of worms. It seems that Cosley advised Hersault early in the writing of the book, but Hersault later became suspicious. Hersault identifies blood, silver, design, and the worms as the central axes of each of the histories, and claims that the so-called second history is the true one. Alright, so I've got the start of a collection, but we're definitely going to be working for the next few. Did I wind up getting... The one I'm noticing here, I don't seem to have the Savage Hymn, which is a boneheaded move on my part, if so. Alright, I'm just going to review my little checklist here, because I'm clearly suffering the effects of not enough sleep. So, we've got the Impulse, we've got the Fear, we've got the Earth Sign, we've got Nectar, Hindsight, we don't have Hive's Lament or an Old Moment. So I am missing the Savage Hymn, fair enough. I also think I'm going to start heading over to the beach and the moor. You're in Denmark. Although, come to think of it, Pro was definitely showing off some fun chip flavors on her stream the other day, so... Alright, let's get the Savage Hymns book read. Let's use Whist on that. Or actually, I guess I can use the Arab. And let's read the Singlefoot songs. I've read kind of both of these quite a bit, but... Okay, so realistically, again, I'm going to need 7 with Coil and Chasm. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Okay, Savage Hymn, 6 with the Earth Sign, Impulse, Fear, Savage Hymn, Earth Sign, Nectar, Hindsight. So this is going to be a tricky one. I'm going to have to try and make the Earthquake name first, and then we'll see what the rest of the... We'll see what the rest of the day can bring me. So here we're going to use the Mazarine Fife, whittled according to Kitty Mazarine's patient eccentric instructions. So this is a nice, somewhat rare item that will give you, or tool which will give you 3 skies. So this is a pretty renewable one. So I know it was upsetting for a lot of people to have the Swaddled Thunder be turned into a device. But I will say that one thing that is nice about it is you could generate a storm quite regularly with it. But one thing that is nice is it's not that different from like the Mazarine Fife will also get you 3. Now, obviously, being able to use that and a Storm in combination is pretty strong, but you didn't really lose a whole lot on the Sky side. It's really the Heart that's falling short now. And of course, we got all the food, so the food will give us some extra points. I can lend my assistants something to help increasing their abilities. This is a tool that I built, but I know that you. I mean, a fife is a type of flute. But yeah, this is actually a tool that you can build. There will be instructions for it in one of the books that you read. Yes, you get to build your own tools. As always, I could just tell you how to make it, but I'm sure the existence of this is quite exciting for you, and you are now going to be reading your books with extra care. All right, let's think about where we're at now. We've got collaboration, we've got a memory, we've got a tool. So I think that's it for. I think that's it for anything. Ooh, I've really put myself into a corner, haven't I? Because I don't believe we have any Skywood. If I want to talk with Mr. Kill, so we can give him a beverage, we can give him sustenance, and we can give him a tool. So I guess when it comes to sustenance, I can try something with the... maybe the eggs are the best bet. You know, probably I should just use the Excel sheet in this case. Out of curiosity, for the fans of the developers here, how many of you watch the weather forecasts that they do? Enjoy your stream, Prosciutto Fist, and for those of you that would like to check out Prosciutto Fist's history streams, definitely check her out. I believe that's what she's running off to, and she's being nice enough not to do the whole, hello, fellow streamer, I was streaming. Boy, it sure is hard to get followers, isn't it? But I also think that there is a really dumb overcorrection that people do, which is to try and pretend that other streams don't exist at all. So I highly recommend, for those of you looking for a new broadcast, and if you want to learn something, check out Pro and her Jack the Ripper stream. Oh, no. Sorry, Hannah. I expect you to be here. No, it was wonderful to have you. I will catch you next time you visit. I expect a full report to let me know whether or not your patron was telling lies. All right, now I thought I had crusty bread, but I could be mistaken. There it is. All right, so these are going to be for Mr. Kill, so that's going to get me 2 Sky. I also need to make more bread, so I think I might even use the Tryst in this case. Although I don't really have any dough. Probably should have thought of that before I tried to make it. Oh, well. There you have it. No, it's a separate item. So if you're talking about the Pilis oat bread, that is a different different item. Nope. But I should give Mr. Kill, either I should give him the Blue Crown tea, or I should get him to give me memories. So serve appropriately. Pour out. Poured out. A nice drop. I can offer my assistants something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. So it's not critical that it's not really critical that I get this room open. It's just an opportunity for me to do so. Better now. Okay, we'll keep going with the whist. Now, we did get our cater and hero, so I think I'll have an opportunity to make that bread now. Unwrap, unbox, unleash. I actually kind of... I knew I had one, but I wasn't sure when it was coming in, so that was particularly delightful. The Singlefoot Songs. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest and diplomat, writes of his time on the slopes of Huashan, near the Grove of Green Immortals, but never too near. Schaller's relations to the grove are cautious. It's a library of the tree, but under the hand of the hour named Applebright. In time, however, Schaller comes to be more sympathetic to the Applebright, which he suggests causes harm only when so invited. The Singlefoots are the title of one-horned, one-footed hill things with sweet but powerful voices, powerful enough to open the mountain. The Singlefoot sometimes trample pilgrims, sometimes heal them, sometimes coerce them to enter the mountain and become Singlefoots. Schaller explains that when he found this last becoming too tempting, he decided to return to his homeland. So a music that urges valor and violence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Might be a tall order for me to expect an earthquake name, but I think I'm gonna go for it. Oh, hang on. I'm not using Disciplines of the Scar to make an old moment. Ooh, that stings. I really thought I was using it. Oh, that's right, because I was waiting for the memory. Well, shoot. Alright, well this opens up some options for me though, right? Because I'm clearly not going to be able to level up the... I'm clearly not going to be able to level up all the Coil and Chasm that I wanted, which is, again, completely fine. So, as an alternative, I guess I can put a couple points towards the... I guess I was going to do the Edict Liminal in this case, so Knock and Moth are not too tough for me to put together. And of course we only need 2 for Edict's Liminal. Or sorry, 2. Where did I get that from? I've got 90 seconds, which is going to make things a bit tough. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to wait on a couple of things just to play out, and then I'll start reading books again. Okay, down to the Grushans. We don't have the eggs yet, so we'll have a chat with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill, Ryan Spry doesn't mind stopping for a gossip. And if I want to read a book, now's the time, but I think I'm going to just try and make the most of my existing... I'm going to try and make the most with my existing Elements of the Soul. You just got some family news. Oh, I'm sorry, Oswin. Take care. It sounds like things are a pretty tough time for you, but good. Best of luck. We'll catch up, and I hope things work out for you. Okay, so we have some tea. I think this might have been because I... Actually, it's kind of hard for me to tell why I needed more second Flesh Assam, because we very clearly have lots. There you go. And lots of flour. So I think one option I'll take is just chucking this in here. We'll take the metal. Also, flour, pulverized grains, bread's precursor. Mix with butter or milk for dough. Mix with water for batter. Now, I think the one thing I had forgotten was that you can actually use milk or butter. So I will add the milk in this case, an ingredient for a higher purpose. I have a lot of almonds. As for the rest of the flour, definitely out of space. So I think we'll put it wherever we can. I'm not going to question it. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. So don't really have much need for the Hawthorn Black, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to hold off on going back to the moor again. I'll probably do it, but I want to make sure that I'm in a good spot for leveling up what I need. Okay, so if I want to level up the Edict's Liminal, I'm kind of competing with some of the mothy stuff, so knock and moth. So pattern is one option. Impulse, but we already have that. Secret, stolen secret. And secret threshold. And I'm definitely, I guess, name day riddle, but probably don't want to do that at this hour. And then I'll do my usual salt. So yeah, impulse, hindsight, fear, patterns. I can get the pattern right away. I think Gossip has moth. No, Gossip has rose. Okay. Still, I think I've got enough to work with. So if we take the pattern... pattern, stolen secret, salt, and I think I'd need to make a secret threshold, but I think we have enough to work with here, so... I'm curious how much time we've got. Still 1 minute, so I wish I had a little bit more, but I'll work with what I've got. Okay. I'm also trying to remember if I was moving them from here to here or the other way around. So that's the pattern, stolen secret, salt. And I'm near certain I don't have a secret threshold book. I think Gospel of Zacchaeus, or I can never remember if it's Gospel of Zacchaeus is secret threshold or stolen secret. You'd think that it would be secret threshold because it's the heterodox account of the Nazarene Messiah who was opened, but all right, let's see if we can sneak out a secret threshold. I sadly do not remember. Oh. First try. Call on the power of the lower Mansus gates to establish a new threshold. So I think this might be a little bit of an adventure to try and get the second Edict's Liminal leveled up, but we should be good. A side dish with Edge, Forge, Heart, Scale, and Sky. Of course, we're only using it for the Sky. I'm trying to think where I keep this. I think it's bigger than the crusty bread, so... Thanks for the fear. Have an egg. Can offer my assistant something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. So that gets us the 12 Sky that we were looking for. Mission accomplished there. And in theory, because there's 39 seconds left, I can actually start duplicating a lot of these items that I need. So let's... I don't have a whole lot of desk space left, but let's get the basics down. So one thing I'll do, we're going to set aside the shaft. I also want to use the fet for the more. So this is what I have to work with in terms of generating the memories that I need. So one memory I'm definitely going to want to generate is the Earth Signs again. Then we will want another Impulse. How am I on? I'm gonna give it a few more seconds before I commit. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I am sitting before the fire and the sweet bones of the beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. And Oriflammes thanks you for your custom. The Book of the White Cat, stories brought by a blind white cat to Penelope of Gordion. So we've used up my overflow space. Really isn't a VAC text, but I'm just going to put this in the overflow section for now because I don't have any other options. I've been kind of stingy on the reading that I've been doing. Okay, so we are already bringing back a Impulse. Yeah. So pattern, stolen secret, secret threshold. Well, okay, pattern, impulse, stolen secret. Salt is 4. We need 5. So I'll probably need to make another secret threshold when all is said and done. But the we can reuse the same skills. And then Caller's Desk, secret hero of Book of Hours. And we need Kilisimi for that one. Okay. I think we have a plan, but I'm definitely going on very little sleep, so I think this is the sort of thing that will easily fall apart on me. Given enough time. We'll keep talking with Mr. Kill. We definitely have opportunities to do or to get some more memories to save overnight. And the thing we're waiting on right now is the altar. An ingredient for a higher purpose. Mix with an egg in a bowl to make cake batter, or use to bake various delectable pies. For the sweeter pies, you'll want to use spices too. Baked bread, a dish with edge, forge, heart, and nectar. Oh dear. I was a little too soon on the... Oh, no. I guess it was the impulse, but... On Matthias and the Amethyst Imago, Loss. An account of an occult romance. A certain Para, son of Aaron, claims to have written this in a single night as part of his initiation into the Damascene branch of the House of Leith, that order of immortals who rejected their past and future. The laws of the house forbade Matthias to love. The customs of the wood forbade the Imago to remain. So he conjured her a final time, when she had uncovered the shears of Alcapura, and she suffered him to cut the wings from her back, so that she might remain, and he suffered her to cut the parts which hold a man's seed, to keep them from the detestable act. This was love in all its blood and joy. We have cast Matthias out from the house. In the cradle of the roots, Matthias and the Imago left their names, and though their names were lost, they found their name-day riddles. This we recall in solution and separation, so that in the presence of the moth, our memories may become our futures. Do this wisely, in memory of the name and the long, who gave up their past that they might be together forgotten. I meant to bother you on Discord about this, but I finally got back into writing, and oh, that's wonderful to hear, Ellen Ripley. It's always nice to have those kind of commitment mechanisms. This is... I actually got a surprisingly warm response to this talk, which was happy for me, but some of you may find this useful because I remember way back when I started playing Cultist Simulator, some people were talking about how it inspired them to make games. I'm always kind of curious when people say that, how many of those did ultimately get turned into games. But I had this interesting experience where there is a subreddit, Roguelike Dev, and they do a sort of an annual tutorial. So there's a few tutorials on the site. There's a community tutorial that's made. If you want to make a roguelike, there's an existing library called TCOD, originally written for something like C, but there's a Python version. And essentially, it gets you set up using that library, and you can make a very straightforward roguelike, which, assuming that you know a couple things about Python, you don't need to know a ton. Python is a relatively easy one to learn. But once you have kind of a rough idea of how all the pieces work together, you can sort of extend it. You can maybe make some choices in terms of how you might simplify it for yourself and so on. So I thought this would be kind of a fun thing to do. I already know a bit of Python, but it was a chance for me to I'd actually set up, every once in a while I sort of punish myself and make another virtual machine that's running Linux, and usually it runs into some sort of catastrophic error after a few months and I lose all the work that I'm working on, but then I swear off it, and then I find myself installing it again. But yeah, so I thought, okay, well, this is a nice little opportunity. The thing I kind of wanted to do for myself is, if I wanted to sort of start from scratch, right? I'm building a new virtual machine. This is roughly how I want things to be. How do I go from 0 to I'm ready to work with this machine with all my preferences in line? How do I do that quickly? So I kind of, made a couple of scripts and just generally got everything where I wanted them to be and set it up. And I said, well, the logical next step here is to actually make sure that I have all the things that I need. And the way to do that is to do a real project. So, Roguelike Dev's coming up. I think I'd missed it by 5 days or something like that, but it's a multi-week project. So I had a chance to catch up. And I thought, okay, this will be a nice, real project to do so that I can make sure that everything's working properly. And also just the idea of building a roguelike, right? And then I decided as a commitment mechanism. So I'm not so good with things like entering competitions or things with really hard, definite deadlines. the deadline is helpful to put a bit of pressure on, but I also tend to notice that sometimes the deadline will go past, and that can be a reason to just flat out stop. And I don't want to put myself in a situation where I feel like I can just stop because it's like, oh, the original goal didn't turn out, I'll just move on to something else. And again, it's a temperament thing, right? You want to know a little bit about yourself and how you're going to respond to those things. But for me, making videos is a pretty natural thing to do, and it was also kind of neat because it allows me to sort of speak out loud through the whole thing. And I kind of imagined it as kind of like a Yule log, a developer Yule log. You put it on in the background, you have this Canadian accent that you're listening to, and it doesn't really matter what he's saying. He probably has a bunch of stuff wrong on Python, but it's just nice to listen to. So I did that. It actually turns out that one of the maintainers of libtcod started watching the videos and left comments like explaining some of the stuff on Python that I was mistaken about. But when it came time for the final project, I did have a bit of a stumble on that one, which was I had a bunch of extensions that I wanted to do for the project, and I wound up getting busy with work, so that didn't turn out. But I learned a bit, and I was really interested in what the library maintainer was working on because they were using an entity component system, which is something that I think is kind of interesting and I'd like to learn a bit more about. But they actually left a really nice comment for me, sort of saying that they found the videos really helpful for seeing how people engage with the tutorial and taught them some things that they wouldn't have learned from just sort of a pure code review either. And so I don't know if this means that the tutorial is going to be updated, but one of the things that surprised me, right, was that for this, it wasn't necessarily that other people watched it. It's the internet. There's probably going to be at least one person who's into that sort of thing. But what I wasn't aware of was how that would be something that unintentionally wound up sort of giving back to the community, right? The tutorial may be better as a result of being willing to do stupid Python mistakes online. And so the talk that I wanted to give, I mean, the local game dev community is pretty diverse, but most of the people have already made a game. They're either doing weird arty things as a hobby, or they're working professionally at various, so one of the local studios just got bought by Keywords. We've got some people who worked on Cuphead and Tunic. We've got someone who works for Finji. We've got, just a pretty diverse group. So I don't really have anything to tell them about how to make games. But especially for that group, there's also a couple of local game programs and students who are maybe doing schoolwork but haven't actually kind of gone out to do their certain game or something like that. And there's always, you never know, the people who are sitting in that spot of, I want to make a game, they usually don't go out and say that in a physical meetup, right? They might say that online, but they're not necessarily going to say that to, do you want me to tell you the programmer that? There's a really nice guy, actually. He's got his, there's a game called Spring Falls that I really enjoyed. That was his solo project. Anyways, sorry, I know this is a longish anecdote, but I thought there was something kind of interesting out of that experience because you never really know. You never really know what's going to be helpful. You never know what's going to mean something to someone. And it's very easy to hear the common advice that you'll hear from people for learning anything, right? This isn't about developing games. This would be true, do you want to become a data scientist? Start a small project, deliver it, ideally do something more than just a rote application. So if you use the Titanic data set, that's a great one to learn on. It's interesting. There's lots of resources on how to interact with that data set. But you're probably not going to find anything new there because it is a very common, or the Iris one. There's a kind of a handful of data sets that are widely available and widely used for learning. And there's some value in that, but part of the job is actually finding something new and interesting to be able to communicate those findings. And so, sometimes doing a more mysterious or open-ended project where you don't necessarily know what the end result's going to look like, or at the very least there's the possibility that you're going to be surprised, those I tend to find are a bit better when you're moving past just like, how do I put instructions in and not have some sort of error. So the roguelike dev tutorial can be like that, right? There's lots of people. I mean, one of the people, I don't think they finished, but I think one of the projects this time around, somebody was writing a roguelike in like x86 assembly. So like there's lots of, and obviously a lot of Godot projects, because people are still hold a grudge against Unity. This is a Unity game, by the way. So is Cuphead. but yeah, it's I don't know. I wanted to present something, and I was originally going to show the roguelike, but I thought the more interesting story would be something where you'll very commonly hear, start a project, make sure you see it through to the end, etc., etc. But I thought there's a slightly different way that you can frame that, which is less about, what's in it for me, or what's in it for, here's your first step towards game development or something like that. But the idea of putting that stuff out as something that other people will find useful, that you don't really necessarily know what thing that you do is going to be helpful for people. I've done a couple of stats things, which was just me sort of trying to do something interesting on stream, and those tend to be very popular around September when people are looking for certain statistical programming languages, which again I never would have expected, but people do seem to like that video, and I've often wanted to get back to it and really talk about the second half that I never really got to do. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, in some cases it's nice to reframe old advice that sometimes can seem to be a little bit of a cliche, but to give it a little bit of new life. And like I said, I wasn't sure how the talk would go, but it was relatively short, and I did get some nice responses from it. But all of that is to say, Ellen Ripley, is that these are the sorts of things I like to hear, because, for me, making the video was a commitment mechanism, but it actually turned out to be something that people found helpful. So I'm always interested to see what form those things take. But I'm really happy to hear your writing again, because I know that's something that you've had ambition for quite some time. Ud Rokashas, an anonymous confessional account of unsanctioned activities by the nuns at St. Brendan's. The title is a Hennebeck phrase that might be translated as "the spirit flees the shadowed places." The author writes guiltily of her dealings with hill children and carapace relics. She suggests she herself has a connection with one of the carapace kinds. Most of these dealings are trivial, but she claims to have arranged the death of the Marcher Lord, William de Braose, called Black William. De Brause's wife, Ava, evidently seeks the Abbey's help to free her from her hated husband. Subsequently, he is found in the bedchamber of the wife of Llewellyn the Great, Prince of the Welsh, while attempting to negotiate the marriage of his daughter, also Ava, to Llewellyn's son. Llewellyn takes this badly. De Braose is hanged, and the elder Ava inherits his estates and makes a substantial endowment to St. Brendan's. And the author's telling, De Braose was innocent of all but cruelty, and the adulterer found in the bedchamber was a shape-changing undergoer. Oh, I'm gonna have to take a look at, if you can give me a link to that in Discord. I'm intrigued. Excuse me. Alright, an opening opportunity that'll last a little while. Secret Threshold, it's not easy to draw our own doors, but it's not impossible. The Sea does not regret. Eason Fekri, one-time Secretary Salvant of the Curia of the Isle, responsible for the Curia's healing efforts, writes of his experiences in Brandkrug and hints at his travels elsewhere. The sea does not regret the tide, Fekri writes, for when the tide is past, it leaves its traces on the sand, which traces are the sea's memory. Fekri is a keen fisherman and speaks glowingly of the fish suppers of Brandkrug. He also admits that his enthusiasm for the bounty of the sea has altered him, that before he came to Brandkrug, he consumed only those things found in the earth. I was the greater thereby, but all of us give up what we were to become what we are. Craft an old moment with keeper level scale, not lantern. An old moment can lead to an earthquake name. Now, before I go too far down this path, I do actually want to see if it's realistic for me to expect an earthquake name in the future. So I think we might be able to do that at the Nocturnary. Nope. Gotta do these violent... Oh. Alright, bone is the memory that does not die. We've got some options here. Okay, so if I were to take the old moment, combine that with coil and chasm, and the health. Okay, so we know how to craft an old moment, that's all well and good. What happens if I add more? Alright, so we do get the earthquake name, so we more or less have our... answer for leveling up Coil and Chasm. But let's get the hard work done. So Scent, Impulse, Fear, Hindsight, Savage Hymn, Earth Sign, Old Moment. Let me just take a quick look at my list of... Knock and Moth, Scale and Nectar, Rose and Sky, Scale and Moon. I'll settle for the stone stories. At last, I approach mastery. Improve the skill to level 8. Okay, so let's see what I can do about improving things. So my outside option here is to use the occult scrap to get myself leveled up with Edict's Liminal. I'm still going to want the 4 though. So here we've got Wrapped in the King. So that's the Earth Sign. This is the Impulse. Is it really this easy? I hope I get this right. I'll maybe do a small audit of these things later, but let's take... I don't really need any more Blue Crown. This would normally be the time that I start cooking. Let's see, just for curiosity. Okay, quiet season. I'm not expecting miracles here, but okay. Yeah, we're not doing any meaningful gardening here. I am not conscious enough to be I think another option that I have would actually be to make a bunch of extra, so we've got like Iotic Essence. So I think one option I may have is just to make big could actually pour the honey scar tea. Yeah. Alright, this is a little silly, but... Pour out. Yeah, I think I know how I'm handling the day. Pour it out. Honey scar jasmine tea, soothing to the senses. Put a cup of tea in the forge. Bam! Iotic essence. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? Let's keep talking with Mr. Kill. There is an option of feeding resentful Terrence as well. I think I might do that after this conversation. Okay, the Shaven Lock Tantra, also known as the one who's shaven his hair. This, the story goes, is the lore that even the shape-changing Vanras rejected. The Tantra speaks glowingly of those who are prepared to abandon their old self to seek a new and higher self. It warns that once the change has truly begun, past the third mark, a return to the old self is dangerous and painful. Whisper your secrets into the earth, burn them in fire, scatter them in the sea, still they will cling to your hair, the Tantra cautions. It provides an occult riddle that it claims sometimes is the answer to the riddle of the Hunter's Gate. Okay, I've got my replacement earth sign. Wrapped in the King, detailed accounts of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries of the cults of Isis and of Sybil, but include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with queasily sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. At these greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying. On this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in its carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in the earth. Okay. So again, I'm kind of conscious of the fact that I am more prone than usual to making mistakes. So in 15 seconds, we will have... it's actually better if I just count. So 1, 2, 3... 4. Okay, 4 memories when I need 5. So I'm going to go for another impulse. We have my core and health running around, so I'm gonna draw up another pitcher of water. I'm going to save 1 for a conversation with a chicken. And I'm thinking maybe what we do is we take the Whist and the Blue Crown. Actually, instead of that, I'll use one of these in here. And then with this one, I can take the Honey Scar Jasmine. And we might as well make a little more money. I'm debating as to whether or not I want to use the core here. I think I'll risk it. Alright, the skill is now level 8. Its power aspects have also increased. Worms, 7 coils, dangerous places, how earthquakes are bound when they are not, and why they are released. Let's get that Edict's Liminal up. So, Stolen Secret, Secret Threshold, Salt, and Impulse. We add Solutions and Separations. We add Shapt. So, satisfying to have come so far. So, once more with feeling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good. So, Wist and Fost, what do I want to do with you two? Well, one of them I'm going to feed the chicken. And the other one, I'd actually kind of like to feed the snake, but the other one I will... here's a question. I believe I'm just shy of... Right, so first of all, I don't think... Yeah, so this one doesn't let me do Solomon's Preparation. So my next best, I think, is Sights and Sensations for that. But I'm 3 winter short, which is inconvenient to say the least. Now, I guess as an outside option here, one of the things I could do would be to take Sights and Sensations, the Whist. I don't know if I can put a tool in place. Looks like I can, so we'll grab the knife. And here it's going to want either a carcass, a tool, material, or remains. So I don't think these have winter. Well, they've got 1 winter, but we need... Oh, God. Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Silly me. If I can't put a liquid in there, that doesn't count. Yeah, so silly for me to even try. Let's maybe see what the Noctunary can do. I have my usual routine for making this, so I want to try and push myself to do things unexpected. Try to solve it in a somewhat meaningful way. Okay, so this is going to take Elements of the Soul, Wood, Pigment, Devices, and Omens. So this is roughly the sort of thing that I would want, and in fact, even in this case, I think just having another Whist would I don't think it would be that hard for me to get a single memory, but I don't have that option now. Or do I? Hang on. Right, no, I need Whist, so I could use the loss and then push ahead with it, but we don't have it, so let's not think about it. I could try and remember a book, so I can take a storm overnight with me. I could... I don't know, when I'm in a situation like this, I do like to craft things. Actually, one thing that might be kind of neat is if I make a... That's not going to work. Amethyst Ampule. I always forget to make these, and they are really helpful. The Locksmith's Dream Trespasses, the 3rd volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. In this volume, notoriously, Galmier's prose begins to disintegrate, and it is not clear which dreams are in fact her own. The woman in the sand-colored robe has told me the stairways of the Mansus go ever up. Death is down. The mother of ants guards both directions with each of her heads, and so the passage must always be through a wound. I think the white door might be a wound. That's one reason the dead sometimes pass it. I think I have the other half of the secret now, and I hope my reader can put both halves together. Oop. Let's get that book. The Account of Kanishk at the Spider's Door. Loch Cowley. Kahuli. Kanishk's victim and lover wrote this account perhaps posthumously. Kanishk sought to become a name. In pursuit of that end, he made Lok Kahuli the vessel of his appetites, promising Lok that they would ascend together. At the spider's door, he betrayed his lover. The Chiliarch listened to it happen and then forced Kanishk into his service. The Chiliarch cannot be denied. Lok Kahuli remained to write this work and to describe the outer magics of struggle and contest. Stolen Secret, something I overheard in dreams. So, 2 of 5. The Deaths of the Moon, a historical tract on various forms of survival after death. When the heart no longer beats, the Grail may keep the spirit in the body, and an appetite is indicated to sustain. Alukites are the best known, but not the only of this nature. This is the Waning Moon mode. The Full Moon mode is the intensification of one element of the soul to a point where ordinary sustention is unstable. Our protector, the generous of hosts, begins of this nature, and its generosity remains ungentle. It is possible for the body's health or the heart's core to outpace the other elements, so that a static mode becomes impossible and growth proceeds in dramatic stages until balance remanifests. So I know this has been one where I tend to get sidetracked quite a bit, and I think I'm just going to embrace the madness. So some of you have heard this letter before, but I figure for some of you this may be new, so let me just bring this up. For those of you who may not be familiar with this, there is a secret folder in the... there's a secret folder in the game. It's not that hard to find, so, but if you need some help to find it, I'm happy to... well, it's a little bit like Oswin. In some cases, I don't mind, like, you know, if there's some value in just coming out and saying it, I'll do it. But in general, I think people like the opportunity to, I don't know, this is my experience of games like this. I think there are people who are very used to games being one thing, and there is a chance for them to really get into new types of games, like a game like this. But it sometimes requires either permission or a bit of a nudge. You know, there's a few different ways that this can happen, but basically what it sometimes comes down to is just being able to let someone know, you know, like, it's okay to be confused, or it's okay to, you know, it's okay to have this, you know, this thing happened to you. Or like, so a perfect example of this would be like if somebody is used to playing a lot of Ubisoft games, just as an example. Like, I don't mean to be picking on Ubisoft for this, just they're a good mainstream company that makes a very predictable kind of game, and it's fair to say that things have shifted for a bit. But there was a while where sort of when Dark Souls was a big thing, and there were a couple of others, there was sort of a saying, and I'm saying this sort of after the fact. I got this from sort of a podcast it's the Designer Notes podcast that I really like. But basically, it seems to be that there was this sense that these games between like XCOM and Dark Souls sort of reintroduced consequence to gaming. Because there's a certain type, like if you look at the types of games which have large teams of psychologists sort of optimizing the experience. I think it was Halo 3, there was an article about this where there was like a team of psychologists that quite closely watched the players playing it, and they sort of built the game around that. They really sort of optimized, they more or less, like, as far as they were concerned, sort of had the science of fun down. That was a really successful and well like game so far as I could tell. But Microsoft isn't the only company that can do that. There's lots of companies, and I know this because I did a job interview for that is a job I potentially would have been doing, to work on the team that studies player behavior and recommends changes to the game, or helps the designers get to certain places based off of the data, and sort of running those kinds of experiments and such. And if you take a look at the types of games made by companies that have those resources, I think gaming is just a truly fascinating data set to work with. And unfortunately, there are two things that I have noticed. So if you want to work with a big game, you basically have to work there, right? Because that's valuable information for them. They don't want their competitors to know. So could you imagine somebody at Electronic Arts emailing, the team that does the Division 2 saying, hey, we're really enthusiastic about games and data, and I was wondering, could you give us all the telemetry from the Division 2? They would shoot them for saying that. And if you're a small figure, you don't have any more hope than EA saying that, because of course nobody wants to be the person to help some student doing work with data and wind up giving away the crown jewels. So you basically have to work, or you have to be some kind of consultant or something for these companies to be able to do that. And honestly, they are resourced enough. I did get to talk actually with a fairly interesting guy. I think he's the head of the data analysis team, or data science, or whatever they call it, for Star Wars at Respawn. I don't quite know what that's going to look like in the future, because I know EA said that they were kind of pushing away from big franchise things, they'll still do franchises, but not other people's franchises. So I don't know if that job is changing. But anyways, I had a conversation with him about it, and there's definitely those people running around. But again, all of those things are basically huge data sets, really interesting, and you have to work there to use it, because there's absolutely no way you're going to wind up, touching any of that stuff otherwise. I mean, maybe if you're an academic, you can maybe make an argument, but even then there's some pretty clear restrictions on how you're going to be using the data. So the indie side might be interesting, but there's two problems with the indie side, which is, number one, I know they like to play the underdog thing, and for a lot of them that's true. But I will also say, I have interacted with enough of them now that not everyone in the indie space is nice, right? I think it is true, and you see this on Twitter a lot. And this isn't even a gaming thing, but there are people who are really just waiting for social license to be a bully. And you run into that. I think you run into that anytime when you're somebody who's not a name asking for something. And you just try not to let that discourage you enough that you carry on doing it. But the other reality is that it's quite difficult to set that sort of stuff up. If you think of a team, so let's say it's a small studio, who is going to take the time to set up the infrastructure to be able to capture that information? A lot of that is already done for you in an engine like Unity, but you still need to listen for certain events. You still need to sort of have an idea in terms of what you're looking for and put it into a format that the analyst can work with. And the big challenge there is that any independent game is going to really be struggling to get the most that it can done in the period of time that it's realistic to make the project, right? So if you've got a Subnautica, you can probably afford to have either a big team or take some more time to make it, because there's some money behind that. But if you're doing a game and you need to pay rent, and you don't really have a big back catalog, or you don't have even the publisher is not going to be an answer for everything, but keeping the costs manageable is the way that you're potentially going to have either a financial success or failure. And so this idea, as interesting as the data might be, the idea of taking that very precious time that goes towards making an experience that will delight your players, and to spend any fraction of that towards doing analysis, as interesting and as useful as that analysis might be, it's a hard sell, and it's usually not something that I bring to people anyway. But one of the things I do sort of wish I wish there was sort of a better way to be able to say, it's like, here is a set of things that I'm going to do to set this up for you. All I need is your permission to turn it on, and it's kind of ready to go. And even then, you'll hear no's. But one of the big challenges for doing this for smaller people, number one, the size of the data set, of course, but number two, you are talking with people who, even if you're willing to do all of it for free, that quote unquote free is still taking away from things that are more directly tied to delivering the experience that their audience wants. So it's a tricky one. Anyways, so where I was actually going with this is that if you take a look at the types of games that come out of developers that can sort of afford those types of teams, you tend to notice that there are a lot of games which tend to bring you to the edge of sort of like dying or losing, but they never quite push you over the edge there, right? There's, for lack of a better term, the revealed preferences of gamers are that they don't want to lose. They like being given the illusion that they're going to lose. But what they really want, they basically want to be some like massive space marine mowing down, effectively defenseless enemies. But you can't be in their face about it. Like they'll reject something that is obvious. This is my read on it anyway. If you just kind of take a look at the tendency in terms of games, that generally you'll see that they want this illusion of difficulty, but they don't actually want to lose. They don't want to feel anything but like powerful. And that's fine, but what that does is that kind of gives a certain perception in terms of what gaming would be. And obviously I'm speaking very generally. We have a very popular genre now, Fortnite, which is entirely about losing. Like there's going to be 99 people who will lose every Fortnite round. But yeah, in general, if you kind of look at a lot of games, you see something roughly resembling that. And if you take people who that is their experience of gaming, and you put them in front of a roguelike, you're probably going to hear like, what the hell is this? Why does anybody think this is fun to play? And of course, there are people who are completely obsessed with roguelikes. There are people who will only play roguelikes. And for those, I think the difference between the two is really just being able to tell someone, this is a different kind of game. It's actually designed that you're supposed to not win every time, right? That you're supposed to die. But when you die, notice that you got this new thing, and you're going to be able to use that in your next run. And, all of a sudden you sort of rewire your brain, you get a new idea about what a game is supposed to be, and as a result, you open up yourself to more possibilities. So that was a really long way of saying that sometimes what I tend to find in terms of sort of nudging people in a certain way, or saying certain things, it's a way that you can sort of catch someone in that net where they'd be someone who would enjoy the game under normal circumstances, but you need to give them a little bit more before they sort of get on the right wavelength. So with all of that to be said, if the mysteries of the game are confounding you and you've not found the secret folder, I am happy to present it in a way that will retain the mysteries while still letting you productively use your search time. Now, chances are we've all forgotten the book that I read before, but I feel there's a letter here that's kind of relevant to the book that we just read, the one from the Ostorium. Where was this? So, Skolakosophy, this one's called. Velletri, Italy, March 25th, 1902. Superintendent, Nocturnal Branch, New Scotland Yard, Victoria Embankment, London. Superintendent Winford, please consider this my sequestration and assessment report for materials seized at Ortuccio. I am aware, you have reminded me on previous occasions, that administration distributes forms that we are generally expected to use for these reports. But events since Ortuccio have made that impractical. Consequently, I have allowed myself latitude in the format. 1. Skull deformed abhuman. Abnormalities consistent with Lamés-Reveline, and the standard assessments suggest the expected oniric risk. Destroyed, pulverization, and dilution. 2. 3 cases of Domaine Reveline, 1865 vintage. Standard assessments suggest no discernible oniric hazard, retained for sale and expenses recoup. You generally feel compelled to remind me, Superintendent, of the regulations on implied hazard. In turn, I generally feel compelled to remind you that I know what I'm doing. 3. Painting, oils, late 19th century, artist unknown. Moonlit view of snowy city. Contemporary label identifies it as Abydos uncrowned. Standard assessments clearly indicated significant oniric hazard, destroyed, incineration. 4. Diaries of Lord Franklin Bancroft, 1762 to 1770. 1889 Cater and Hero's Sons reprint. I am well aware that the branch depository contains the mandated 2 copies of this edition, and that I would normally be expected to consign it to flames. However, my good friend, Dottore Robigo, has argued persuasively that they contain material important to my work here. Retained. Mirabolic mirror. Composition unknown. Clear and immediate oniric hazard. Destroyed, pulverization in the absence of light, dilution. 6. A Child's Treasury of Golden Afternoons, Jacob Gristwood. Clearly, I am aware of the standing incineration order on this work, but this may be the only copy still in existence, and the scolacosific resources available to the branch are frankly embarrassing in their paucity. After a detailed examination, not to mention discussion with my very good friend the Dottore, I have determined that it is much too valuable to be destroyed. Retained. 7. Fantastical Triptych, oils 16th century, prodigious enthroned mass adored by kneeling figures, vibrant description of heterodox Christian harvest festival. Standard assessments, when suitably interpreted, indicate negligible oniric hazard. It was through this work that I made the acquaintance of my good friend Dottore Robigo. Retained. We'll come back to this one in a little bit. 8. Silver hand, life-sized. Inscription probably antique Persian. Standard assessments suggest minor oniric hazard. However, given this operation's urgent need for funds, I have determined that the scrap value of the piece outweighs its sale to the public. Retained for sale and expenses recoup. 9. 3 10-year vital extension bond documents, stolen decades with reckoner markings. The suspicious longevity of the Dufours of Ortuccio was, you recall, one of the concerns that justified the seizure operation. That longevity is neatly explained by a reckoner connection and other documentary evidence, not material to an ANS report. Also supports this conclusion. Despite recent developments, see below, I am inclined to forward this evidence to you as a professional courtesy. I have, however, resolved to retain the vital extension bonds for my own use. My physical development proceeds admirably, but I am approaching a critical stage at which I must take all necessary means to sustain my health. Retained for personal use, approved. 10. Desiccated organic material, possibly amniotic membrane, call. It clearly tastes of birth. Standard assessments indicate significant oniric hazard. My invaluable friend, Dottore Robigo, has suggested a safer procedure than incineration, incorporated into abdomen. I become impatient as I write, and in any case, I have rarely known you to pay my reports the attention they deserve. This concludes my report. A personal note follows. I now tender to you my immediate and vigorous resignation. On somber reflection, Superintendent Winford, I am appalled that I permitted myself to be involved so long in the illegal operations of the British government, in a sovereign and noble nation, in a myopic and ignoble cause, under the orders of a man as minimal and sluggish as yourself. I have expropriated the funds originally provided for nocturnal branch operations in Italy, with the assistance of the provincial authorities and, of course, of dear Dottore Oh, where'd you go? Dear Dottore Robigo, I am using those funds to endow a Scolacosophy department at the Università Velletri, though the Dottore and I have resolved that to minimize troublesome interference will operate publicly as Though the Dottore and I have resolved that to minimize troublesome interference, we will operate publicly as a department of mycology. Now that I am free of your pettifogging and pious influence, I intend to expand both physically and mentally to the fullest possible extent. I hope that in light of the information I have chosen to share here, you will reconsider the static and sterile mode in which you have so long developed, and address yourself instead to the possibilities of a more growth-oriented philosophy. Should you need my assistance in the alteration, you are welcome to visit my new department in Velletri, where I and my most excellent friend, Dottore Robigo, will tender you our most urgent and productive assistance. Yours, Indecipherable Smear. Afterward, at the turn of the century, the nocturnal branch of the Metropolitan Police was responsible for protection against troubles unseemly and occult. After the fallout from the Ortuccio incident, the branch was dismantled and its functions absorbed into the Civilian Suppression Bureau. So, let me see here. Oh, do they not have the... Never mind. I really would have thought they'd have the image of that. So I'm looking for the Weather Factory blog on this. Okay, so this is going to be a slightly different approach to this one. So there was a reference to a there was like a reference to the. Sorry, let me bring this in here. This image of three people worshiping. It was a triptych. So this is a reference to the crowned growth. So there's the Weather Factory catalog. So in this case, there's an entry for this one, crowned growth. I took the seeds of the crowned growth into me with the elixir Zeboim. If I had only kept it pacified with the flesh of the dead, it would never have turned its hungers to me, but I was never warned. There are immortalities beyond immortality, so now we thrive together in the soft place that fire cannot touch, and I will always be glad, and always. So I think that's actually probably the ending to the Ghoul. I don't think I've gotten that one before. But there was a blog post back in 2018, so this was from Cultist Simulator. So the crown growth, how it became. In the run-up to the Cultist Simulator launch on the 31st of May, we're posting all of Sarah Gordon's lovely Hours Tarot, including several that haven't been seen before on the Weather Factory Twitter account. Here are some behind the scenes on how we got to the crown growth, two of the horriblest ones to date. So this is one of the gods from nowhere. Sarah. This is one very early look, as I'm not sure I'm on the right track or not. Drew this several times yesterday, and most of the time ended up with something that looked like Lumpy Space Princess or Krang started a family together. And Krang started a family together. This version, which I prefer but I'm not certain of, would see a fleshy polypy lump sitting on a throne, modeled somewhat on the coronation chair from Westminster Abbey. Stone of Scone, left out though. A crown of spiky protuberances is sticking out of the flesh. Every time I've tried drawing an actual crown, it's ended up looking more comical than anything. Maybe that's okay? Along with the odd tuft of hair. John Isaac's sculpture, I Can't Help the Way I Feel, is sort of on my mind with this. The throne plus lump are currently situated in quite a dour-looking throne room, with some silhouetted dignitaries bowing and curtsying in the foreground. I suspect this concept needs work, so happy to hear more mythos feedback from you. Alexis, this is actually very much on the right track. I'd reckon that you're right, an actual crown would look daft. The throne and the other regalia make it look plenty royal. Tufts of hair are great, on top of spikes are great. Anything that makes it look like a tetralogical curiosity is good. I just googled the John Isaac piece, and yes, I like the reference. I like the nasty but also tragic effect. The throne goes a long way to balance its basic lumpiness. What I would love to see is more impression of it overflowing and expanding. It drips down the front of the throne in exactly the sort of... the drips down the front of the throne are exactly the sort of thing. Tendrils or splashes over the sides and across the floor would work great. Further, all the gods from nowhere, like the growth, are especially menacing out-of-context things, so I would like to mess with the format of the card fruitfully. Can we have it overflowing the frame of the card, perhaps even creeping into the card title? I'd like to do similar things with the other from nowheres. Ideally, if this ends up a physical card, I'd like it to be the one that makes people feel like they should wash their hands after they've picked it up. So, next draft. Okay, this is bang on, +1/2 for the hair growing out of the puddled growth on the floor. Lottie, check this bad boy out. Yeah, really creepy. You're sitting in it, people. Why aren't you moving is a virtuous consequence. Yes, I still feel like I might need more in the space behind the throne. That might resolve itself once I play around with the lighting and detailing on the paneling, though. Yeah, the foreground is so arresting that I didn't register, but it's like the wall behind the malachite. It's a shame not to use it and an opportunity for a second look. Lottie, whoa, that's amazing. Yep, I will have a ponder, but if you have anything you'd particularly like to see, then give me a shout. Anything that suggests infection or rulership would be ideal. Conceivably, some sort of warped Christian imagery, like icons on an altar retable. I can manage that, I'm sure. If a saint is offering people their own hands, or if Jesus on the cross is consumed by fungus or something. Sorts of things you want to see in your chat history. And that's the blog, but this is the final version. I wonder if there's any value in opening it in a new tab. But yeah, so this isn't a triptych, but this is basically the painting. I'm pretty sure this is the painting that the letter was referring to, and of course you can sort of see the banners, you can see the icon, all the little details inside of this, and it's running out. Now, what I'm also curious, I had forgotten that the instruction here was like have this be sort of unnatural and have this growing outside of the card, but there are other from nowhere cards. So I'm a little curious when I consult those. I'd be interested in seeing whether or not there are any... sorry, I'm just going to get out of that letter. I'd be interested in seeing if there are some details that I missed for things like the mayor and the tree. I am so sorry. I've lost my... There we go. I lost my stream setup for a minute. Okay, so that was a long diversion, but hopefully a profitable one for some of you. Let's take a quick look. So I'm upgrading the Edict's Liminal. I know we said that we were good for numbers, but I just want to double check these here. So we've got Impulse, Stolen Secret, Salt. That's 3. We're going to need 5. Actually, so there's 4. And there's 5. We're good. Ooh, a Foresight. I think I'll have a use for that. Oh, but not without... Yeah, I need more Forge. Okay, well that's fine. Let's get Mr. Kill opening up the Shrieking Gull Cloud. The gulls have made this their kingdom, and they have grown intolerant of interlopers. We will have to pacify or discourage them. In the meantime, let's feed the remaining chicken. Resentful Terrence. Cluck, cluck. And Faust. Satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. I know better than to pick this up right now. I'll wait till I can pick up the water. Okay, we've got the bread, so use bread with a knife and mushrooms, ham, pilchards, or other savory things, or add apples and spice for a classic English pudding. The skill is now level 5, its power aspects have also increased. An opening opportunity that'll last a little while. Looks like I'm still short one item. I think this might be giving me an impulse, actually. Ooh. Yep. Alright, that was my bad. Traveling at Night, Volume 1, The Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Alopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist. Literate, entertaining, bewildering. The wood lies outside the walls of the Mansis. As any student of the histories knows, the Mansis has no walls. Alopoli describes how he came to make repeated visits to a dream wood via what he calls silver dreams. Trying to think your way to the wood, he explains, is like thinking your way to being in love, but I did find a secret that helped. So I'm still one short. This is sort of a reserve at this point, but I'm sort of at the point, because I just have so much of all this stuff, it doesn't hurt to have extra at this point. So I don't know about leaving. Well, we'll put some blue crown in. Alright, so this can go to the bridge. So the last step here is to see, am I waiting on any more knock things? So we have the Amethyst Ampule coming up, but I think... So what did I miss out? Yeah, I missed out on the pattern, which should have been obvious at the time, but I do have the Occult Scrap to get me through. So we're going to take that. We'll take the Edicts Liminal again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can double check to see if there's anything else that's relevant, but, you know, nothing that I'd want to give up. So Occult Scrap. Solutions and Separations in the Shaft. At last, I am something of an authority in this. And I will actually need to decide what I want to do with my memories. There might actually be an argument for me to keep the Foresight. I think I'm going to do that. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. So that's leveling up. I'll eventually want to rearrange my skills, but I know we need to get a few more things picked up before we call it. Alright, it has its uses, but none of them are simple and few are safe. I don't know if I have space. Okay, space for and Iotic Essence. With Keeper level Forge, Iotic Essence is the precursor to the great ink called Orpiment Exultant. With Keeper level Lantern, it can become Xanthotic Essence instead. So I wonder if I can fit... Yeah. So we've got quite a few of these. I do eventually want to turn this into an ink, but I'll settle with what I've got. Full Belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate, and I will get the Occult Scrap. Oh, hang on. I don't have it. I should read my newspaper. Gull Colony. Through all the Isle's long years, the gulls, heedless of our affairs, have taken their due from the sea and returned it to the rocks. Careful where you step. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. So I was thinking that I would actually have used this glass of water already, but I didn't. And here we go. The skill is now level 6. Its power aspects have also increased. We're not quite where we want to be with the Edict's Liminal, but we're definitely much better off than we were when we started. So there's the 3 there. 4, 5. I think I'm eventually going to turn this into an 8, so we'll... In fact, I know I spent a lot of time on previous episodes working this out, so I might as well take advantage of that work. My plan for Edict's Liminal is level 8. Yep, so we get Edict's Liminal to level 8, then we can put Coil and Chasm in position 9. Okay, not a bad day's work. I think I'm going to leave these here. If I can make it so that the wolves, I don't need to think about the wolf stories, I'll be a little happier. This one we're just going to chuck. Okay. So I definitely prefer to focus on getting Coil and Chasm leveled up, but obviously I'm not thinking too clearly, so I'm actually going to take the time to work this out. I still have all the notes that I wrote before, but I want to make sure that I'm actually thinking sensibly about this time. So, Impulse, Fear, Savage Hymn, Earth Sign, Nectar, Hindsight. Hive's Levant is not really something that I can do, but I didn't write down old... Sorry, did I say Nectar? I meant Scent. Well, let's write down Old Moment. So I think the obvious step here is to use the Disciplines of the Scar to make the Old Moment at the start. So, sorry, I should probably read this too. Solar Altar, the sun in splendor is the hour which was sundered, the hour which is not conquered, the hour from which proceed all the other hours of the day, or so the church teaches. What do we want from you? Right, we need a memory, so that's why we didn't do it last time. Let's see what the weather brings. Actually, that's not that hard for me to get a memory. If I cast an object into the sea, it will be lost, perhaps irretrievably. Use this to dispose of junk or of danger. I have carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. And for some reason... Right, I remember why. I need an element of the soul to read the paper. Okay, so... Whist for that. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be heading out to grab things from the sea. Also things from the moor. Oh, excuse me. As just a fun little experiment, let's see what happens if I take chaotic essence, metal. I guess it would have to be transformations and liberations in this case. All right, so that's already enough for Orpiment Exultant. It almost feels like cheating. But hey, it's a nice way that we can get Alcabal Deposend, so I'll take it. I do want to get a head start on leveling up Coil and Chasm, but I'm wondering if there's any sense in waiting for... No, I don't think there's any sense in waiting for the weather. So I may still may still bring someone in. I should take a minute and see what the what the other room I unlocked was. So we've always had the option of opening up the Wing Haunted Cave. There is also the Gaping Darkness, which is a 12 heart, 12 moth. So really, I guess it wouldn't really be until summer that we worry about that. So yeah, Impulse, Fear, Savage Hymn, Earth Sign, Scent, Hindsight, Hive's Lament. Plenty that we can do. So we're already, or should be working on the Old Moment soon. But let's take we'll get the basics. So another Impulse. So this is the Damascene Histories of the House of Leith. Moving on to the Pale Desk. I should also read the desk descriptions every now and again. On to Fear. So that we just use Black Nephrite. Savage Hymn. That's one of the ones that I forgot last time. This one, I think we can get away with using a shaft in this case. And that one I know I'm going to need Sabazine. Okay, we've already got the Earth Sign, and I won't be able to get the scent for 30 seconds, so it's the Hindsight, and that's it for now. These are regrets. And I guess I can keep going for the money. Again, if we get interesting weather, I may change the choice here, but I'm okay. We might be able to use this with one of the other level ups, but I'm gonna just set that aside. Okay. So first things first, we want to get the Old Moment, and ideally an Earthquake name, but let's take this one step at a time. Okay, so we're crafting an Old Moment. Recall something lost, something scale aspected. I guess as an intermediate step 2, I can finally feed the Viper. Wild Viper, don't make any sudden moves. So Arab, we've got more than enough eggs. So feed the beastie, satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. Yellowing newspaper. It's dated the year that Hush House was abandoned. Nothing's history when it first happens. Okay. So this is more just restoring my persistent memories in a nice, easy way. Let's go... I mean, to a certain extent, I'm stuck waiting for a bit while I get the memories that I need, but we just have so much that we can do with these elements of the soul. I suppose I can start thinking about what my next upgrade is, so I'll... So for the Edict's Liminal, we're at 6, so I just need 2 Knock and Moth lessons. Coil and Chasm, we just need 1 more, but I'm just going to erase that right now. I don't think that's really key. So I guess we work on Hill and Hollow next. Hill and Hollow, I need 4. I have 2. Well, the good news is Hill and Hollow is going to be a really easy one to move up. So, I wasn't originally... No, you know what? I've got lots of elements of the soul. Let's just get some weird books, or weird memories. So let's start with a salt. So I just need 2 for this first one. I could use the clouds if I want, but I'll, I think I will go for a Confounding Parable or Impulse. I'm slightly inclined towards Impulse here just because normally I don't read Impulse books because I can get those from another character. Sorry, did I say Impulse? I meant Intuition. I'm going to start with the Concursum Diaries. There'll be more, but this is just a decent start for me. Oh, let's get that nectar. Peaceful. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers of the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, the Damascene traditions of the House of Leith. The House of Leith was an order of immortals who sought obscurity, rejecting their past and their future. If the author of this short text is to be believed, the initiates of the Damascene branch were much more radical than their fellows elsewhere. The house generally forbade any potentially procreative activities for fear of the terrible consequences of too long bearing a child. The Damascene order took this much further. At one point, male initiates were required to undergo castration, and female initiates were to strangle any children that they had previously borne. These measures were so horrific that the order was shaken by repeated schisms, and eventually absorbed into the local Sisterhood of the Knot as a society of healers and exorcists. Black Nephrite, one of Valentine de Wolf's dream journals, in which he records his visions of a place that is no place, beneath the house that is no house. The dark inchoate feral space described by Valentine seems to be the nowhere of the invisible arts, the infra-oniric layer that the alien hours sometimes called the gods from nowhere. Valentine's attitude to the nowhere hours is unexpectedly relaxed. He speaks darkly of their appetites, but he insists that they are too alien to penetrate the house of the sun, let alone the waking world. He even seems to suggest that the Mansus hours have exaggerated the threat of the nowhere hours for their own reasons. Not all birds are trustworthy in their feathers, he warns. Unhatched hymns attributed to St. Lucia the Eyeless, patron of glassworkers and name of the hour called Meniscate. The hymns venerate every sanctioned hour, celebrating them as the sun undivided, but also suggesting that each hour may become the next, madrigad to watchman, watchman to wolf, and so on. The hymn of the phases celebrates the Meniscate from whom we do not turn, for the truth which is beauty, the beauty which is truth, and the perfect balance between the two. The hymn of the Reflections more puzzlingly celebrates the Meniscate as sister of Janus, mother of Shadow, whose visage wondrous in emptiness can reveal all truths. Those who do not weep. Brown Joshua found this in a well in Hamath. There is an unlikely story that it was abandoned by Alexander during his retreat from Issus. The unknown adept who wrote this proclaims, "The world forgets, but the ivory dove does not." The text contains a number of prescriptions for ensuring that certain acts are remembered, including a rite which requires a sacrifice in a particularly monstrous mode. The hours tried to bury the memory of what happened to the wheel, the flint, the tide, and the seven coiled, but the dove won't permit it, nor will he permit what happened to the first egg to be forgotten, though it is perhaps the one thing that the watchman might ever forgive. Alright, I might do a quick check-in once these timers run out. Sense of awareness persists, but the plant remains immobile, unsettling but harmless. Doesn't even have thorns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to get 7. We need 8. So again, the game plan here, once we craft the old moment, we're going to turn that into an earthquake name with coil and chasm. And then we'll get another old moment so that I can have everything that I need to level these up. A Full belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate. Tame viper, an avid student of warm fireplace stones, warm mice, and warm milk. So the necropsy, or the, sorry, not the necropsy table. That feels a little unkind to put the viper in there. Maybe we'll put you in the... Get along well with the dog. Maybe we want to put the loyal dog somewhere else. I'm sure they'll be fine. Let's think about the next step. So I can definitely try and get some more eggs. I guess the question here would be, do I have any more vegetables left over? Because it seems like I don't. Well, I got the basket of vegetables, I suppose. I do have the grapes too. I don't know, it'd feel good to try and make the most of the grapes that I can access, so... Or sorry, it would be better if I get kind of the raw resources where I can. So offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. Okay, animal bones. I'm not going to rule these out because the scale might turn out to be helpful, but I'm at a loss. All right, we're definitely getting rid of you. That might be helpful in making the old moment, actually. The Queen's Turn, a 16th century translation of the Barrowchild's account of Lagia's turn, when Lagia, the queen unsated, was offered the opportunity to enter the service of the Hours of the Triple Knot, as long as she repudiated her brother-lover Antaios. Lagia accepts, setting aside the arts the low red sun associated with Antaios. She bargains, however, for freedom for her daughters. The Hours of the Triple Knot accept casually, knowing that Lagia has devoured her daughters, but wily Lagia has decided in the secret hollow of her heart that she will adopt any who ask if they can prove their fierceness. The traditions described here, the ones generally described as hill and hollow, are associated with Lagia before her turn, but now that she is a name of the Red Grail, they might also be safely used before an altar of the Triple Knot. Let's see, spray, depth, sorrow. So let's turn that into another level for hill and hollow. And by the end, this is going to be a level 4, so let's just get that out of the way now. Awkward. Okay. Stone stories, huh? I'm tired. I'm sorry. Did I forget? Sorry, this is another book. The Concursum Diaries, the diaries of the explorer and murderer Lars Westergren. He's unhelpfully translated them into Frisian for privacy. There are map legends, there are maps of legends, and there are legends of maps. Aspects of the Mansis subsist in all of these, in much the same way that you can find water in a swamp and in a cup and in the sky. Westergren describes a series of expeditions into the Mansis. He focuses on the details of the experience, the colors, the vistas, the textures, rather than the practicalities. He does warn that the Mansis changes each year, although he assures the reader that the doors have been the same. Doors may close, but they never disappear, at least not while there have been mortals in the Mansis. We're like mice. And there we go. Okay, so it's actually pretty easy for me to figure out the next, or sorry, not figure out, but it's pretty easy for me to set up the next kind of batch of activities. So we'll go for a confounding parable this time. I've read the other line quite a few times, so I think we will do portions and proportions this time. So that's one moon. Is there another clever way? I guess the Wainscot histories would be one. Or the Ascendant, but I'll do Wainscot this time. So that's two, and then we can just use the clouds afterwards to get the last of the hill and hollow that I need. Wait a minute. For some reason I thought I'd already committed that. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. And really, at this point, I should probably be considering which of these books I want to read and for what purpose. So, Wolf Stories... I have one here. I'm already using this for Coil and Chasm, so what was the deal with this one? Probably to level up Hill and Hollow again. So that's one for Hill and Hollow. I don't know about the rest of it. This was probably for the Edict's Liminal. So, you know, I'm slightly tempted to try and read the Temptations of Architecture here, but I don't have the Transformations and Liberations. Okay, yeah, we'll try reading Temptations of Architecture. I'm not going to leave myself a whole lot of time to work with it tonight, but I'll have enough. Old moment, you've had them too, those moments where we seem to look out at the world through another's eyes. What if those moments were real? Okay, so we're going to go straight ahead and make another one of those. And I think I said I was going to use the clouds in this case. Or, I mean, if I give it a second, I'll have the... yeah, we'll wait on that. I have a bad habit of forgetting that I can do that, even though I've taken advantage of it quite a bit. So I do just need to get, I need to get in a better habit of remembering I really only need to spend like 10 seconds to get a memory rather than 30 or a minute. Algrins, how are you doing tonight? Okay, so, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, sorry. We haven't made the earthquake yet. Not bad. Got paid bills. Looking forward to next payday. Yeah, I too got my bi-weekly hate mail. And we're one short. Okay, I'm sure there are better ways for me to make the earthquake name, but in this case I'm really just looking for some quick scale. I'm assuming only the bones will do here, but... Alright, craft an earthquake name, discern a potency of scale. So one thing I may want to do in future is I may want to take this and level up. Sorry. I may want to... I may want to make another earthquake name just so I can have that in my inventory. It's not that hard to do, and I have more than enough resources kicking around the house. But again, let's focus on making the most of the day. I should probably make some harder commitments in terms of what I want to do with my various elements of the soul. But let's think about the temptations of architecture first. This is an Incastum Terminale, one of the great inks. Use it with your journal to record a history and fulfill your reason for coming to Hush House, if you so choose. Orpiment Exultant, the Incastum Terminale of the fourth history. It's the incandescent orange of Forge. One ingredient, it's been, as it were, long rumored, is the blood of candescence. Certain Masonic and related traditions venerate what they call OE. Use an Incastum ink with your journal to make determinations and record histories. If the hours listen, the world changes. Better now. All right. The skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. So we've got another 30 seconds before we can work with Hill and Hollow again, but I'm feeling okay with where we are. I'm willing to go to the moor again, but I may want to hold off on doing any of the other things. I also forgot to use transformations and liberations. So Path and Pilgrim for my Fett. We're really cutting it close. All right, Collar's Desk. Governor's Desk, a desk as severe and practical as Collar's himself. So Temptations of Architecture. We'll start with the metal and the transformations and liberations. And yes, we have enough. So Forge the Kindled Flame. I can master this mystery. Enough Forge to match Mystery Forge. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. I think we'll just try and fit that in there. So I just want to double check what my resources are. So I can do a couple more rounds with the chickens before I need to worry about stocking up again. I'm going to try and keep a surplus of elements of the soul until I know exactly what I need to work with. Offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. And we're almost done the books. The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Galmier records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there's a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. So there's the confounding parable we needed. We should have one more. The Wainscot Histories, subtitled Stories from Behind the Walls, a miscellany of non-traditional histories, including battles not generally acknowledged and countries which appear on no map, told in a playful, apparently fictional manner. Gore does not mention the Mansis directly, but constant coy metaphorical references to ascending the staircase of years, to the doors of sleep, and to the blue light of dawn suggests he had commerce with the unseen world. It was common in that time to speak of the division of the sun, by which contemporaries understood the eruption of barbarian forces and of their uncouth gods. Okay, on we go. Hill and Hollow. Hill and Hollow once again. Contradiction, confounding parable, clouds. Throw Tristan there. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. Improve the skill to level 4. Now, if I recall correctly, the reason why I wanted to do the Temptations of Architecture was to level up Edict's Liminal. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull off 2 lessons, but I should at least be able to take a crack at... at least one more level here. So for this, I guess it's the Shapt or the Tryst. I'm kind of indifferent between either one, but let's just set both of those aside. So realistically, it's like, okay, so I need 6 between Knock and Moth. That shouldn't be too difficult, although I did erase that part of my folder. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So definitely plenty to work with. Also, we do have the option of doing a salon reasonably soon, so I may want to start thinking about who I invite for the next one. But let's stick to the task at hand. So Knock and Moth. And I think just to save myself the trouble, so Stolen Secrets. I know that one's Beguiling Melodies. Impulse for sure. Fear and Hindsight don't help me because they don't have Knock or Moth. Foresight, Fear, Storm, Stolen Secrets. Should probably read the Velletri interview. Or, sorry, right. That's why I don't do it. Okay, Pattern. Storms doesn't do anything. I keep thinking that Intuition has Moth, but it doesn't. Regrets doesn't help. Confounding Parables doesn't help. Contradictions doesn't. Foresight doesn't. Gossip doesn't. Salt does. Bittersweet Certainty doesn't. Savage Hymns, nope. Earth Signs, nope. Solace, nope. Cheerful Ditties, nope. Revelations, nope. Satisfaction, nope. So Secret Threshold. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I guess at that point we need to do Name Day Riddle. Or alternatively, Occult Scrap. Those aren't the only options, but those are the ones that are fairly easy for me to restore. So all told, not the easiest one for me to work with, but I think we can manage. So let's do Velletri interviews. Actually, kind of sounds like a fun one to go with. So I guess we'll use the Faust there. Yeah, so that's Stolen Secrets. I already have an Impulse, so I'm going to want to be careful about when I bring that in. Pattern. I believe we did both of those. I think we've read all the Salt texts, but we might as well keep working with it. If I want, I can make another Orpiment Exultant. I know I'm going to need more than one, but let's settle for... Oh, let's do the Historical Tract again. Now the Secret Threshold is something I need to build, so we'll do that at this desk here. Ah, the Name Day Riddle, yes. I should have thought of that too. Hey, thank you very much. I'm glad it still does something for you after so many plays. Okay, so I need to bring Real Moth to this. Oh boy. Okay, so there, excuse me. Yes, there is a way for... No, hang on. That doesn't do it. But this will. Okay, so again, I need my reliable source of memories. If I cast an object into the sea, it will be lost, perhaps irretrievably. Use this to dispose of junk or of danger. I also just think it's a really good ending to a movie. You know, like I'm kind of weird in terms of my tastes kind of are all over the place. I am definitely built like a proper film snob, but there's also a side of me that's always recoiled a bit when people go a little too far on the film snobbery, because I've always wanted to, like, the thing that probably really makes me happiest when it comes to these kinds of discussions is they're often an opportunity to sort of share something with someone, and something that maybe they wouldn't have thought about before. So, you know, Gladiators 2 is coming out reasonably soon, but I remember talking with someone about Gladiator, and I think I'd recently read Republic, and I was just sort of reflecting on the fact that there is this interesting structure to Gladiator, and I'm still not sure whether or not this is intentional on their part. Sorry, 1 second. I think the connection's a little too loose for this to really be something that's coming across, but I just thought that there was something sort of interesting in the way that the ideal society is described in the Republic, and how you can sort of see these comparisons with, you know, how the movie opens with Maximus running his hand over the wheat, and, you know, then he becomes a general, and then, you know, there's sort of the final, well, and General Warrior, you know, Gladiator, the majority of the film, and then sort of the ascension up to the highest level. And it sort of, you know, again, you sort of have these different castes that you go through. And my own, it's kind of interesting too to just sort of see how this reflects. So anyway, sorry, I did a terrible summary of it, but like I was kind of just riffing off of that for a little bit and talking about certain images in that movie and some ideas present in it, which make it a little hard for me to tell if this is me just pulling some of my recent reading out of that movie, or, you know, applying that to the movie here and maybe reading a little too far into it, or just kind of pointing out the fact that it really does seem to, the more you look at it, the more that particular perspective can be sustained, just because once you are sort of wired that way, you kind of see the hints all over the place. And there's a couple of movies like that where I'm much more certain that it's intentional. But in the case of Gladiator, it's like, that seems like a bit of a kind of an not entirely out of left field. Obviously, it's the classical world, but like ancient Greece work of, you know, I guess people say ostensibly political philosophy, but I'm sure it probably should be, it's probably a little bit bigger than just that one distinction. I'm not entirely convinced that that's it, but, you know, just a certain level of enthusiasm and just being able to sort of bring it across and share it with people. And there was definitely this feeling, like the reaction immediately was like, oh, now I want to watch Gladiator again. And I've done that for Terminator. I've done that for a couple of other ones, which I just sort of think have a lot of interesting things inside of them, which if you just sort of scratch away at it a little bit, you suddenly start seeing all sorts of neat little things down below. And that is always the fun for me, because you, what you're doing is you're sharing something, and you're potentially giving people an opportunity to experience something that they wouldn't normally see. Incidentally, the reason why I think that this whole Gladiator thing sort of reflects my, you know, my my interest is I've been reading a lot of rhetoric lately. So of course now I would probably say it's like, well, it's pretty obvious what Maximus's journey is. Marcus Aurelius tells him that he's the one to bring to make Rome a republic again, and in the end he refuses it, and ultimately his family is killed. The emperor's killed. He's imprisoned as a result. What does he need to do in the arena? Well, he's already good at killing people, but he is suffering from the very thing that he was concerned about when he talked with Marcus Aurelius. He needs to win the crowd. He needs to learn rhetoric. He needs to learn how to be able to talk to people, basically, even if in this very sort of showy way. To a certain extent, too, right? This is the challenge that he faces by trying to take on someone like Commodus, which doesn't have the physical skill to take him on, but he has he has the institution of the emperor. He has the ability to win the crowd to do so. So again, it's one of these things where there is actually something also kind of fun about this, because of course Stoicism was a big thing for the Romans. There is something kind of fun with this idea of fate being this case where you're sort of a dog leashed to a cart, and so you can either go along with the cart or you can refuse, and it will be worse off for you if you refuse, because you're going to wind up in the same place but a lot more banged up. So there's a little bit of fun with that idea as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of these ones where clearly, each time I watch that movie, it's not like I sit down and watch Gladiator all the time, but because it's coming up, I sort of reflect that, now I would think about that movie in different terms, because it sort of reflects the sort of reading that I'm doing right now. But yeah, so what I was originally wanting to say was the film snobbery side. So I like that part, particularly when you show people movies that they wouldn't have otherwise seen. So I've been running into some people lately who haven't seen some classics that I would have assumed would be, if you're into movies, you'd have seen them. So like The Graduate, I've run into some people who really like movies and are familiar with some of the older movies, but have never heard of The Graduate before. I'm like, oh, goody, we get to watch something. If you haven't seen The Graduate, by the way, wonderful movie. But it's there's something positive about that, and I do sometimes find that the film snobbery can often be a little bit more about keeping people out. Oh, check it out. Unless you just don't like older movies, but if you like movies from around the 1970s or something like that, it is definitely one that you want to do yourself the favor and watch it. It's good. We can do movie night with Cree or something like that. Everybody can enjoy the Graduate. So sorry to Cree if I just suddenly signed you up for a one. So I'm not anti-Kane. I do sometimes think that people feel a certain obligation to talk about that movie in a certain way. The thing is, my background was in the camera department, so I really can't poo-poo that movie too much, because as far as camera is concerned, that is a well shot film. But I think the way I could maybe put it to you this way is that I don't feel that Orson Welles' career was a downward or even flat trajectory from Kane. Touch of Evil, I think it's F for Fake. What was it? There's another one that I'm thinking. I really like actually F for Fake, but The Third Man isn't really an Orson Welles film. He appears in it. But yeah, the idea here, the biggest one for me is just to say there is, I think, a somewhat justified reaction against the kind of Kane obsession. One description I sort of heard for Kane becoming number one was that it was essentially European film critics kind of getting revenge on the Americans to sort of say, like, look, you made the greatest film and you didn't even realize it. Which, I don't know, like, I think that's a cute story, but I don't know if that quite holds water. But I don't know, like, I maybe this is just one of these things that happens when something's at number one. Like, I don't feel the need to have an opinion on Citizen Kane. Like, I'm a big Stanley Kubrick fan, so, I'll gladly go on at great length about Barry Lyndon and why that's wonderful. But I mean, the biggest difficulty I have is I haven't even decided. Like, ask me on any day what my favorite Kubrick is, and I give you a different answer. But yeah, I don't know. Like, so the gatekeepy side of it, of like trying to tell people that they're like bad because they like Marvel movies or something, is I don't know. I don't really feel that there's a lot of value in that, but I do think that there can be an opportunity to sort of show people that there's some interesting stuff that they may actually wind up liking if they just give it a chance. And oh my God, spoiler alert, Algrids. But yeah. But it's always the thing that's kind of funny is that even though, like, I'll go on about how wonderful Winterlight is, or or whatever, I really do enjoy very popcorny or very sort of schlocky kind of movies. Like, those are really enjoyable too. I think Cree had recommended one called Glorious, which I quite enjoyed. And I don't actually see a big problem with that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Indiana Jones just hits this nice spot where it feels like a pretty good little story. But it also feels well crafted. So, like, I kind of feel like I could sit someone down and watch Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time, and there'd be a pretty good chance that they would enjoy it. Whereas if I, was going to sit someone down and show them, like, 2187, that's a short film by Arthur Lipsett. If you haven't seen it, it's very good, on the National Film Board website. Great, inspired George Lucas. I mean, if you look at THX 1138 4EB, you can clearly see that he was basically kind of living in the shadow of Arthur Lipsett, it seems, and is not made it a secret that was a major source of inspiration for him. But yeah, he like, that's going to be one where if I sit somebody down and show them that, they I don't know how they're going to feel at the end, and I don't know if they're going to trust me to recommend another movie again. Okay, so I need 2 more scale for Hill and Hollow. Yeah, well, I mean, I think enjoying it is fine. I do sometimes think, like, I do feel to a certain extent, I don't think people's tastes are sacrosanct. I think you can definitely teach people to enjoy, like, so this is the thing. I think the thing that I can say that's nice about having an education, for instance, is that you just get to enjoy more stuff. Right? Like, you, the way that I look at the world, before and after reading more books, or even just going through high school or something like that, I'm just aware of more stuff. And for the most part, that stuff's pretty cool. And you notice things that maybe you wouldn't have noticed before. And maybe some people can do that without a formal education, but it seems to be a pretty effective mechanism in terms of being able to do that. So whether it's film, I imagine it's probably the same with fine dining. I still read menus right to left, so I can't say. But even a game like this, right? Like, I think there are people who traditionally would like shooters who, if given the chance, could actually really enjoy a game like this. And it's not because it has any qualities that sort of speak to a shooter. It is more about the fact that it lets... you know, I think I probably was supposed to be getting a bunch of knock stuff. And we'll play it by ear. It's more just the fact that there is something about, you know, interactive storytelling, and there is just an atmosphere that this game has, which I think probably can speak to not everyone, but maybe more than what you would normally expect. I remember what I was supposed to do, and I think I just wrecked it. Let's do... Well, if I take no, a tryst, edicts, liminal, loss, but then I need the edge, or the tool, which I don't have. I'm sure there is a better way for me to do this. I have the workbench. That doesn't help. Yeah, I kind of need colors. Well, we can work with this. So, an opening opportunity that'll last a little while. All right. Well, that creates another problem. So I think I'm just going to bite the bullet. Advice on containment. Thyrza Blake discusses ways to keep wood things out of trouble and Mantis things in it. Thyrza is irritatingly light on specifics, insisting above all that the duties of an adept are the duties of a host, and that a conjured spirit should be kept in as luxurious a vessel as possible. Thyrza notes the similarities between the lantern-long habit of scrying, returning to the physical world despite their absence of a body, by entering a mirror or light, and Pomander's techniques for confining Mantis Long to mirrors. She wonders whether Pomander himself might be lured to visit Hush House if provided with a sufficiently alluring scrying. The Velletri interviews. Interrogation of a man named Lacombe, a former Nocturnal Branch inspector now identified as terminally robogoid. Lacombe is not especially lucid, and the state called robogoia evidently includes a malady of the lungs which causes coughing fits. He weakens audibly over the course of the interrogation. He is questioned about the disposition of various unsanctioned items recovered from a Nocturnal Branch raid on a castle at Ortuccio in the region of the Fusine Marshes. He is, however, defiant as well as incoherent. Lacombe insists that items have been put to good use. He derides Nocturnal Branch as the lackeys of Calyptra. Alarmingly, during the last few minutes of the interrogation, he begins to insist that his interrogator should burn the library. He waxes enthusiastic about the fire he wants to see, leading to a final coughing fit, after which the interview abruptly ends. So I do wonder if it's if Lacombe is the one who wrote that letter before. The reason why I am wondering... We don't actually have a symbol. And there's no mention of Winford, but although it does say Velletri, so that would be the key, I suppose. The Deaths of the Moon, a historical tract on various forms of survival after death. When the heart no longer beats, the Grail may keep the spirit in the body, and an appetite is indicated to sustain. Alukites are the best known, but not the only of this nature. This is the waning moon mode. The full moon mode is the intensification of one element of the soul to a point where ordinary sustention is unstable. Our protector, the generous of hosts, began of this nature, and its generosity remains ungentle. It is possible for the body's health or the heart's core to outpace the other elements, so that a static mode becomes impossible and growth proceeds in dramatic stages until balance remanifests. Okay, so we got 4 of those. I do need to kind of get back on track to make the most of the day. So let's just see what I'm working with. So in 90 seconds, we'll have a name day riddle. So that's 5 items. In 9 seconds, I'll be able to get the impulse. So we're good there. So that's 5 and 6 for my Edict Liminal. Okay, we're good. So I just need to set aside one more element. Well, I guess, yeah, that can be the element of the soul or the Fet, maybe. How are we with the more? We can do another one. So the core health and metal are the remaining options. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. So we'll probably just feed the chickens with the remaining elements of the soul. Wonder what I'm looking at here. So I don't know. Let's use the metal, I suppose. Satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. Alright, speak half a syllable and feel the beast stir half a coil. Earthquake name. Everything comes when it is called, even the nightmares that trouble stone's deep sleep. Okay, actually I forgot where you have other uses for our elements of the soul. So let's start by leveling up Coil and Chasm. So Impulse, Fear, Savage Hymn, Hindsight, Scent, Earth Sign, Old Moment, Earthquake Name. We add the Wolf Stories Lesson, and then we add so that's going to take that to 9. We're good to go. So I suppose in the best case, well, no, because if I had an old moment, I'd just lose it the next day. Okay, so that's off my plate. We have Secret Threshold, Pattern, Stolen Secret, Name Day Riddle on its way here. So that's 5 of the 6. We may get something from the Temptations of Architecture, but I think that's probably going to be a pattern, actually. So for safety, let's take the core and get another impulse. I think we're on to the Beekeeper's Ends. And while I would have liked to have done something with the chickens, I think at this point I'm also going to need to use the health to get the, or well, whatever will get me the paper. I don't think I can just read this. Yeah, I need to interact with it. Better now. All right. I'm going to see what's up here. So, Temptations of Architecture. The antiquarian and Nyctodromus Ambrose Westcott writes of the dangers of doors when, with particular reference to a house in the bounds named Treowin. No doubt they have come to regret the ambitions of their winding stair. Even now in Treowin, a silver sea is unwisely visible from a rash window. Westcott explains that the wheel locks, the charge holders of Treowin, have had recourse to dramatic measures to prevent oniric encroachment, removing the entire top floor of the building. Nevertheless, he writes, the business of the Moon Hall has begun to touch the other business of the house. Okay. Door and wall. Oh, that was unexpected. Secret threshold. I believe that is the first of its kind for me. So, do I have a spare shelf? So I think the problem that I had here was that... Yeah, there isn't room for the two. So what I'm going to do as an alternative, let's start by moving the Naveen parchment. So you two need to find a new home. We'll just set those aside for now. Okay, unconventional, but it works. I don't know if... Yeah, I guess I'm already moving Foresight onto other sets. I think we'll anticipate maybe more contradiction. I think probably Confounding Parable is more likely. So these will become contradictions. And then these can become secret thresholds. All right, door and wall. So again, we'll have one of these for Edict's Liminal. Actually, with that in mind, okay, so let's set aside the shaft. 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I missing? Oh, of course, when I get this, I'm going to have 5 and 6. Right, okay. We're good. So, with the remaining tryst, I guess one of these will be to feed another one of the chickens. So then I've got a health and a whist to go with. I think the answer probably is cooking. I don't know if there's a lot of well, okay, one of these I'll go to the sweet bones with just because it's nice to have some extra change. But big question now, who do I want to invite? I don't think I settled on who I was helping with the, which one was it? Yeah, the Egg of the Dune. I guess I didn't make a note on who I wanted to help. Well, I could always invite them again, but it seems a little funny to do that. So let's think about... think about who I can invite while also keeping the Connie and... So we get 5 guests. If I bring Connie and Wakefield... let's just see the roles that these people can play. Okay, so Daymare could become the treasurer. Adim could become secretary nunciant. Or Bichet. Okay, so what if we did... So I think I've got my 5. Cool. Okay. I'm not going to say who I'm inviting, though. I'll keep a little bit of mystery. I'm just going to make a note here on what ingredients I need. I think I know this last one, but I gotta double check. Forge? Yep. It's gonna be a bit of a weird salon next time, I think, but weird is good because that means I might get interesting dialogue. I suppose the other question too is, where do I want to host this thing? Well, it's spring, so I suppose a picnic of some kind would be worth it. Yeah, okay. I think we're going to do a good old-fashioned picnic, which of course means that I need to move all this into another room. I have no idea how I'm going to be able to manage all this. Oh, actually, this is a nice empty space. Sorry, I realize this is a completely tedious way to close out the stream, but you gotta prepare for the salon. There's actually a few ways I can prepare. I think I can probably pour the drinks without needing to give up anything meaningful as far as elements of the soul are concerned. And obviously we want to move the Roscragon whiskey to a safe place. Okay, so I think one of the first things I can do is pour some tea. Interesting. I would have thought we would have... Okay, well... makes my life easier. So we'll start with that. For another drink... guess this will give me an excuse to brew another one of these. More than one. Okay, so we put a spare one of these already in Collar's office. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell the guests based off of their drinks, but I have a plan. Yeah, you know what? I think probably just taking the health and making some more honey scar tea would be welcome. Make honey scar tea, a hot drink with forge, nectar, and rose. It'll just give me some time to think about what I want to make as far as dishes are concerned. All right, and I need one more drink at some point, but I think I can get by without... Oh, actually. There we go. God, it took up half the table. The skill is now level 9. Its power aspects have also increased. Okay, so this will get committed to the Tree of Wisdoms when we're ready. Unfortunately, I do need to get the Edict's Liminal leveled up before that. Now, the good news is Doranwall opens the possibility. It's really just a question at this point of how long it takes me. I am going to need to think about how... How much time do I have here? 33 seconds. I think I'm going to get an occult scrap. A full belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate. So I'm unfortunately short one element of the soul to help the chickens. But I do want to prioritize leveling up my edicts. The Beekeeper's End, dialogues with bees and uses for honey, as erratically recorded by Ricardo Milagro, gardener of Hush House in Musgrave's time. Milagro spends an entire chapter on his hatred of wasps, which he describes as the vile pretenders. Milagro claims that bees retain many traditions passed down from earlier and greater branches of their species, but that they are fiercely jealous of these traditions being passed to lesser insects and insist above all on an oath of secrecy. Tragically, therefore, he is unable to describe these more substantial and powerful traditions. The one thing I forgot to get was the Earth sign again. But we can do that next stream. One of the reasons I wanted to prioritize the occult scrap first was that I have a chance of leveling up Edict's Liminal with an occult scrap. I don't with an Earth sign, so... is this a way to the wood? But perhaps the wood is not a suitable place for a librarian. I also don't think I described Coil and Chasm when I leveled it up to 9. So worms, 7 coils, dangerous places, how earthquakes are found, and why they are released. Okay, so Edict's Liminal. Take that. Shapt. impulse pattern, stolen secret, salt, secret threshold, name day riddle. Give it a door and wall lesson. When I thought I'd understood, I'd only begun. Improve the skill to level 7. And from there, we will rest on the foresight. I guess I'll just put this on the bridge and toss it out later. And then this money will equip me for next day. All right. I think we're in pretty good shape. So I'm going to write a couple of IOUs for myself. One for the Earth sign. My writing on this is hilarious. So yeah, what I've got here is IOU, 1, Earth Sign, 2, Level Edicts, 3, Prepare Salon Food. So this is a tedious guessing game, but for those of you who want to participate, I'd be interested to see if anybody has guesses as to what guests I'm inviting if I'm bringing in a Cater and Hero Second Flush Assam, Isle Water 2, Honey Scar Jasmine Tea, and Blue Crown Tea. A mystery that we will answer in a future stream. I think that is it for me. Again, I'm sorry for missing out on Monday's broadcast, and I'm sorry for a little bit of just kind of a rambly stream where I wasn't completely on the ball on a couple of the different things I wanted to do, but I am contending with a really tough time at work. I actually also need to make sure, so I'm doing some training, so I need to make sure that I'm on time, but I also need to spend half an hour recording an episode for tomorrow's YouTube series, so I still have a bit of time ahead. Oh. Siri wanted to help. No. Yeah, I'll do what I can. But yeah, thank you everybody for hanging out. I will be back on Friday. Hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to be rested, but I will at least be I never keep the same convention. Thank you, Sylphia. But yeah, I'm going to be back on... So for those of you that watch the YouTube video, I'm quite literally going off to record that now. So I am going to try and record one more episode of that Thursday evening, but I know I'm not gonna be home until after this episode needs to go live, so I need to make sure that I do the recording today. I will try to be back reasonably on time on Friday. I know Friday's always a tough day to just kind of make everything work out time-wise, but again, because I'm on that training, I may have a slightly different window in which to get stuff done, I suppose. And then the weekend, I'm gonna, 1, make sure I get some proper rest, but 2, I'm gonna try and make sure that I can get all the videos and such done on a proper schedule. So again, thank you everybody for your patience. Let's see who is online and who we can host for the evening. We have, looks like Prosciutto Fist is still just finishing her history stream, so I'm going to send you to her place. All right, that's it. I already said thank you and all of that. Go away.